Hello, my Teaserking family. How's everybody today? Very strange week, week 9. I did pick very well individually, but putting the teaser together, it was crazy. So, let us review what happened. So, Thursday night, we have Lou Lafayette, which loses 39-24. Thought Southern Miss is a weak favorite, but they put up 39. We get 24. The quarterback plays. He plays okay. Lou Lafayette's supposed to be a good defense, and Southern Miss is not supposed to be a good offense, so a little bit different. Utah Rising is going to play 10 minutes before kickoff, and then says, I'm not playing. Was it a fix? Was he really injured? The problem I have with this, why wasn't he on the injured list? He got hurt in the USC game, supposedly. So the question is, well, okay, he's hurt. Why wouldn't he be on the questionable list? We see all these guys on the injured list, but he's not on the injured list. So I'm not buying that. I don't know. I'm not saying he's not hurt. What I'm saying is, why wasn't he on a questionable injured list like we see all these other quarterbacks? Mordecai at SMU, Gabriel at Oklahoma a couple weeks ago. Baylor's quarterback was listed as questionable, and then we're waiting until Friday night and then seeing a line movement, and we go, okay, now we can play it. So why is Rising not on any list? It makes no sense. That's the problem. Then 20 minutes before the game, he says, I'm not playing. And I'm watching the telecast on the highlights, and the announcers didn't know he wasn't playing. So they're announcing him. Here they come. They come out for the first snap, and he's not out there. And the announcers go, oh, it's Rising. And then they're going, it's not Rising. So even the announcers didn't know what the fuck's going on. So there was really never any clarification of what the hell happened. However, we still somehow get a win. The starting quarterback was out. The starting running back was out. The good tight end hurts his shoulder on a touchdown. But we win 21-17. So we start Thursday off 1-1. Now, forgive me for grabbing some food. So we start 1-1, but I'm smart enough to put them in separate teasers. Then Friday, I don't play. LTAC Florida International, who's a Z team, puts up a 42 on LTAC. Well, I don't know. I got weak quarterback. Did they do a change in quarterback? Did the quarterback get hurt and they changed? I think they did change quarterbacks. I think Holmberg got hurt. The other guy comes in, lights it up, and you're going, well, why aren't they playing this guy? East Carolina, BYU, I do have East Carolina as the dog, and they win straight out, getting 3.5. So overall, I played Lou Lafayette, lost, played Utah, won. Now we get into Saturday. And here's K-State -1.5. I got Oak State and 7.5. I'm going to bet that every time. I've been winning with that every time. I had them against Baylor at Baylor plus 13. I won. I had them against Texas as a home dog. Locked the game. It won. So they're very good as a dog. They're a very good team. They're a top 5 team, and they get blown out by Kansas State. I just assume that sometimes the team gets flat, and I think that's what happened here. I think they had beaten they played TCU, I think, a few weeks ago, and then they had played Texas. So those are pretty emotional games. And they go to K-State, who's not a power. So I could see, if this was Oklahoma, they wouldn't have been flat. And I think they were just flat, but you couldn't really tell or see it because, K-State's a pretty good team. Howard's a very good quarterback. been injured a lot because he runs, and that's what happens with these running quarterbacks. So K-State just blows them out. Okay, if I'm going to lose, I'll lose 48-0. So this is my first lock. So my locks go 2-2 Saturday, 2-2 Sunday. This was played with Baylor. Baylor wins. This is the story of the week. So I got my Baylor lock winning, my Oak State part of it losing. I've got my Georgia lock under winning, and I got it with UCLA over losing. So I go 2-2, but the mix of the teams kills me. And that was the story of this week, and that's what we're going to get into. So now I lose with Oak State. Ohio State, Penn State, I have the over. It's not really going to go over, but then all of a sudden Ohio State gets 2 or 3 turnovers in the middle of the fourth quarter, and it's 44-31, and they go over 75. I was over 54. I thought the game would be over because Ohio State scores a lot. Penn State scored a lot on Minnesota. The Michigan game went 58, and I thought, well, even if we get a 41-17, but Penn State plays better at home, and it never should have got to 44. Is just these interceptions, and that's what makes an over. They return 2 for touchdowns. So, again, that's going to make it over because they're quick scores, right? You've got the ball, you throw it, it's intercepted. He runs it in for a touchdown, took all of 5 seconds, and so you're not running the clock. So that's why if you get the turnover, you do get the overs because they don't take time off the clock. So now I win that game. So I got Ohio State over, winner. South Florida, Houston, I don't play. Houston wins 42-27, laying 17, over under a 58. Well, it easily goes over, and it should have because these were both weak defenses. Houston over, South Florida is a W. Because they don't normally score a lot. They got 27 here, but giving up the 42 was expected. The spread was a little high to bet, 17, so I laid away. And they win by 15, so it was right there. The over, I don't know how much South Florida is going to score, so I don't play it. Anyway, but that is a normal, yes, 2 over teams, it goes over. It's a 58. That is what you expect. Then we get to Notre Dame, Syracuse. Notre Dame's an under team. Syracuse is an A team. Good defense. Played Clemson 27-21, 48. I got 53.5 here. I think this is a good bet, taking the under in the game. What happens? Syracuse fumbles 2 punts and gets 2 or 3 interceptions that led to easy Notre Dame scores. Within a 4-minute, I'm winning, middle of the fourth quarter, we're winning, and then all of a sudden it was like block punt, and then it was an interception. There was an interception and a block punt within 2 minutes, and there went the under. Now, there's nothing you can do. That's just part of the game. You don't expect all the turnovers. But what happened is Syracuse's quarterback gets hurt. There we go again, rising. And now this guy, he gets hurt. The backup comes in, throws a few picks, doesn't drive them. So then there's a punt blocked, and it was just ridiculous. And that's how we lose that 41-24. Now, what it does is it skews Notre Dame. So you've got to understand, Notre Dame really didn't score 41 points offensively when they're getting points on block punts, right? So let's take 14 away is 27-24. And if the regular quarterback doesn't throw the interceptions, because he's not going to do it, but the backup will, you're probably looking at a 24-27 game, 51, which would have been under. So I'm not making excuses. I'm just trying to explain. I'm trying to say, this is why we don't go 100%. This is why I tell you don't bet too much on the game, because anything can happen. And as it did here, again, I have Syracuse played under, and there's another losing teaser. Toledo Eastern, Toledo's quarterback's out. I don't play the game. It's an over game. They're an over. Eastern's an over. Over under is only 54, so 48. And they win 27-24. They get 51, so they would have went over. But Toledo's quarterback doesn't play. We don't know the backup. Too much risk. It's too much uncertainty. What we're doing here, what I'm teaching, is probability and outcome. So what I think the outcome is the probability that the outcome happens based on the statistics that I have and the facts that I have, which means if a quarterback doesn't play, we don't know the other quarterback, we don't play. In the Rising case, there's nothing we can do. It happens just before. And then what do we do with that? Well, look what happens. They don't blow them out. They barely win. They do get the win. Fortunately, we're only laying 7. So that's what happens. So again, it's the probability. If Rising's playing, the probability of them winning by more than one was 95%. With him hurt, they still won, but then it makes it a lot more risky because we don't know who the backup quarterback. He played okay, but he's no Rising. Rising's, not replaceable. So then we get to BC, Connecticut. Both teams have weak offenses. BC's a Z team. Connecticut's a W. They've been winning some games with Jim Mora Jr. Both defenses are over, but both offenses are weak, so they can't take advantage of it. So I like the game under. I don't bet it, but I like it. I'm picking all these, and it's 13-3 Connecticut. And again, that goes to the fundamental. Why didn't I bet that game under if I knew they had weak offenses and they're not going to really take advantage? The over-under was 45. And see, that is the problem. Why aren't we playing that game? Why aren't we locking the game? Clearly, they can't score. Clearly, look at BC scores 3 on Connecticut, but yet you don't play the game because you're not comfortable with BC and Connecticut. And that's really the problem. That game could have easily been played under, and it's 13-3. You get a 16 on it. I mean, you get a dream under. Arkansas and Auburn. Arkansas 3.5. Over under 60. I like Arkansas. I don't like them as a road favorite. Auburn, I'm not sure what I'm getting. The quarterbacks are kind of hurt. The coach isn't very good. They're both over defenses, but Arkansas is an over team. So we know with Jefferson, and he's playing, they're going to score a lot. But we don't know. Like it was a lock, as I said, if they were the dog. And then now you can see why. As the favorite, I kind of laid away because I was a little bit worried. They're a road favorite at Auburn. It's SEC, so I don't play it. And I can't play the over because Auburn doesn't score much, and it goes way over, 41-27 Arkansas. You get a 68. Over-under was 60, so we would have had 54 in our world. And again, there's nothing you can do. Arkansas, has the better quarterback, Jefferson. And so you almost want to bet the quarterbacks. And that's what I do a lot. That's the key, or a great defense. Georgia Tech, Florida State, 41-16 over. Florida State was minus 23, over under 48. Georgia Tech's quarterback is out. Georgia Tech's a W team anyway, but not really with a terrible defense. It's like 27 a game. Florida State, I don't know who they are. They've looked good in some games, and then against Wake Forest, they don't show up. Against Clemson, they don't show up, but they get some late scores. So I can't lay 23 with Florida State, and they win by 25. So it's right at the line. But the over does come in at 57. I like the game under because I didn't think Georgia Tech would score, and I didn't think Florida State would score. So, again, we don't know what the outcome is. The expectations are not there, so we stay away from that. And that's fine. That was a game I didn't like. TCU, West Virginia, TCU laying 7.5. Over-under is 68.5. West Virginia really's got a weak quarterback. Yes, they beat Baylor somehow because Baylor's quarterback got hurt. And it was like a Thursday night, and they're all hyped. But then they go to Texas Tech, and they get slaughtered 48-10. And if we look at Texas Tech against Baylor, Baylor beats them 45-17. So Texas Tech's not a good team. So I like TCU's offense. I think they have a really good coach, very good quarterback in Duggan, good receivers, good running back. They're an explosive team. They went to Oak State and won. Now, they hadn't beaten West Virginia. It was like 0-9. That's why I didn't lock TCU. I locked Oak State because TCU had trouble at West Virginia. But I know it's a new coach and a new offense. So I take it and I play and I win it. So I'm laying 1.5. They win 41-31. I don't go over because I like TCU -1. It's like the Utah game. I like Utah -1. That's it. So I don't play the over-under if I really like the team. But in this case, TCU, I like -1.5. They win by 10. They don't go over. They get 62. The over-under was 68.5. So that's 62.5. So you don't win it. However, you probably could have got it a little bit lower. I think I see a 67 in here. So that would have won, but it didn't really. I don't feel West Virginia's got the offense to bet a 68 over, and they don't. So 41-31 TCU, get the W there. So, I mean, so the thought process works a lot. It's just you're going to get certain games like Oak State that doesn't go the way you think, and there's nothing you can do about it. Kansas State, I watched them against Oak State, and they started off on fire. They were up 28 to something, and then Oak State or TCU, one of them, won 38-28. So it was like, that must have been TCU. And they were down, and they came back, boom, 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 and Kansas State stopped scoring in the second half. So I wasn't that worried, but they do look good. They did beat Oklahoma, but as we see, Oklahoma has no defense. So, one of those. So, but it doesn't always go. And then sometimes I was a little bit quick to take Oak State as the dog because I just, it's kind of an automatic. If I'm getting Georgia as the dog, I'm not really studying it. I kind of know what's going to happen. So that's what happened there. But it works for TCU. So it works most of the time. Miami of Ohio, 8.5 over Akron. Akron's been playing decent. However, what we don't know is Gabbert, the regular quarterback from Miami of Ohio, is back. But we don't know that because he's always on the injured list. He's been out for 6-7 games, and here he is, and they win 27-9. We know Miami of Ohio is a very strong under team, very good defense, best defense in the MAC. And Akron was a Z team, is now an over team. They started scoring on some of these weak defenses, but not here. 27-9. I like the game under, and it was under 50, and they scored 36. So now we see why the line moved from 48 to 50. The quarterback played. There's always when the line moves, why did the line move? You need to ask that question. And that's what happened. So Miami of Ohio gets an easy win. Now their quarterback's back. Now we can bet them accordingly. Hey, Don. With Redskins and Titans parlay. I played the Titans under, and I'll let me quickly go into that lesson. So what happens is the quarterback's out, Tannehill. So as soon as Tannehill's out, I bet the under. As soon as I hear he's out, I think it was Saturday night, I'm watching whatever, and I'm watching the Michigan game, and it goes NFL, and it goes Tannehill out. As soon as that, I go under. Before they can move the line, it was still 42. I teased it under 48. So good for you. You had the Redskins. Well, I guess, yeah. Indy starting Ellinger, who I do like Ellinger, but that was a good play because Heineke's much better than Wentz. So good play, Don. I like that. But I probably would have played Tennessee under because Henry ran like 50 times, and they only won by 7, so it wasn't 27. The over-under was 40, so that was a much easier, less stressed play. Oklahoma, Iowa State. This was my free play. I loved it under. Iowa State, super strong defense, and they just shut Oklahoma down, 27-13. Oklahoma's a 1.5-point favorite, over under 57.5. That's a joke for Iowa State game. To tease it under 63 is like a Georgia game going under 63, and it was an easy winner. So again, this was not a lock. You wish you'd have locked it instead of the Oak State, but that's what happens. Professor, would you take under in the Browns game? Iowa State doesn't have that's why they're a perfect under. They got a great defense. No offense. That's why you play the game under because they're not going to score. But look at Oklahoma, 27-13. Look at Kansas, 14-11. Look at Texas 24-21. They don't give up a lot of points to these powerhouse teams. Now, maybe against TCU, you got to be careful, but I just think nobody's going to score a lot on them. They just play really strong defense. Why do you like the under in today's game? I assume it's Jamar Chase being out, but the line had moved down to 45. I still kind of like it over because Cleveland's an over team. And so they score a lot because of Chubb, but they don't have a defense. Cincinnati, yes, they lost Chase, but they still have Burrow. And Burrow will find the other guys to throw it to. Their defense is good, Cincinnati's, but at 45 to go over 39, I still, because of Burrow, like the game over. I initially locked it, didn't know Chase was out because I didn't know it till Thursday. I'm looking at the injury report Monday, Tuesday. I don't see anything, which is like the Utah guy. If he's injured, put him on the injury. Why isn't the hip injury on there? And then I would have not played it. And that's where I get these last-second injuries. Like, why did that come out on Thursday? Put him as questionable and then go, unless they don't want to say his hip's bothering him. So just say upper body or say, leg or whatever. Anyway, so Iowa State, great under team. You can't be afraid because it's Oklahoma. They're going to score a lot. They do, but not. But this is where you're looking against over defenses. So Oklahoma against an over defense, they're going to score a ton. It's going to be an over. That's why I bet these games over. The defenses aren't there, but they have very strong offenses. A TCU, an Oak State, Baylor's more of an A team. Oklahoma, Washington, Oregon, UCLA, they're all over games if they play over teams. But when they play a good defensive team, like when they play Washington State, I did not take SC over. I would have played Utah under had I known Rising wasn't going to play. But with Rising, then it made that a good bet. And I still won the game, but it was very hard. So Iowa State just go under, and as Don's saying, they don't have a good offense, which is perfect. That's why I've been betting Dallas under, because with Cooper Rush, they don't score and they have a great defense. Now, I don't understand that game, which we'll get to later or tomorrow. Where the fuck did that come from? Dallas and Chicago goes 80 points. Are you kidding me? I got to watch that replay. Miami, 1.5, 48.5 against Virginia. Van Dyke's questionable. See, that's noted, so I don't play the game until I know. Questionable. We find out, I think, Saturday morning on the show, he's out. I go and I immediately bet the game under with about 2 hours left so my guys can get it. And the game is tied 6-6 at overtime. The goal was in overtime. Miami wins 12-9. So that's what you have there. But it's an easy under. Virginia's another one of these strong defensive teams. That's why I rank the teams over, under, A's, and Z's. The under teams don't score and have a good defense, like in Iowa State, like in Iowa, like in Illinois. Illinois is not really an under. They are an under. I got them as an under. But if they don't have an offense and they got a great defense, they're the perfect under team, like Iowa. Iowa's the perfect under team because they're not going to score and they're not going to give up a lot of points. But you've got to play them against an under type of team, a team with a good defense. So I didn't play them under against Ohio State. I did play them under against Michigan because they run the ball and play defense. So they're also kind of an under team. So the Miami game wins under. Charlotte and Rice. Rice is 15.5, over under 61. Both quarterbacks are weak in the sense they throw more interceptions than touchdowns. Rice is an over team, so they do light it up, and they have no defense. Charlotte's really an over team, but they've been, I don't know if it's their schedule or whatever, but they're not scoring like they used to, even though they have Reynolds. Well, Reynolds lights it up, 56-23 Charlotte, which obviously you can't see this coming. Rice is a 15-point favorite. I like the game over, but I don't play it. Although I should have with with Reynolds because he's a good quarterback. He's going to eat up Rice. So that's what ends up happening. That's the same theory I had with the Lions Miami yesterday. The Lions played New England. They knew how to defend them. In Dallas, they're obviously not going to do anything. But against Miami, their defense sucks, as does the Lions' defense. So they score a ton of points. So now you're back to the Lions over, but it's all predicated if they play a weak defense. So really what you're looking for, you got a weak defense, and I call them overs because they give up points, right? So they tend to be an over game. So once you see that, then you just play the game, and you know you've got a good shot if you're taking a dog against the weak defense or going over with the weak defense. That's a very easy play to make because you know the defense isn't going to stop. Where did the upsets happen in the defense? So that's really what you're looking for. So Charlotte Rice goes over. Charlotte lights him up. Rice scores 23. So again, Rice is not a great team. Charlotte's got a great quarterback, but they don't have a defense. So that game goes over, which made sense. Both defenses suck, but the way Charlotte's been playing, it's hard to do it. Rutgers, Minnesota. Again, now here Rutgers is an under team, just like Iowa State. No offense, pretty good defense. Minnesota is a B team. They score. Now, here's where they score more. I call them an A or a B. So they got a good offense and a good defense. Rutgers, I feel, is not going to score. They're both under defenses. The over-under is 40.5, which makes me, I don't know. It's a little bit low, and Minnesota wins 31-0. I did expect the shutout. You don't know what you're getting with Minnesota. Tanner Morgan, I believe, does play. So you don't know what you're getting. Ibrahim, the running back, just ran, 50 times for 200 yards. But they did keep it under. And again, you're getting no points from Rutgers makes it an under. If you're gonna get the 20 points from Rutgers, then you're gonna get the over. Like in the Georgia-Florida game, I called it 44-0. Which I was right on the Georgia end, but I didn't see Florida's getting 20 points, but they did. But we got lucky that it was 63 and they scored 62. But I wasn't expecting Florida to get the 20. But I had Georgia right pegged, 44. They got 42. But again, I was not expecting Florida to score against this Georgia defense. We'll talk about that in a minute. So Minnesota Rutgers is pretty much an under team. They're not going to score for you, but they have a decent defense, so that's what happened. Old D, Georgia State laying 3.5, over under 54. Old D's an E team, so they scored 25, give up 25, so they're decent, but not great. And then Georgia State's an over team where they score a lot and give up a lot. So what do you do with this game? Had Old D been the favorite, I could see taking Georgia State. But how do I take Georgia State? Georgia State wins 31-17. But how do I take them against Old D? And then what do I do with the game? And then I go over or under. Well, it doesn't make the over. They only scored 48. The over-under I got here was 55, 56. So they don't make over, which I didn't think they would with Old D. But they beat them 31-17, so it was really a frozen play. I couldn't take Old D, which I would have lost. I couldn't take Georgia State as the favorite. I couldn't go over, so that's where you don't play it. There's nowhere to go with it. I can't. It's either favorite dog, over or under. I couldn't determine any of that, so there was nowhere to go with the game. That's why when you'll hear me just say, forget this game, it's because there's nowhere to go with it. It just is a bad matchup. Northwestern Iowa. Now here, Northwestern's a W team with an over defense, where Iowa, we all know, can't score, great defense. I play it under 43.5 because it's Iowa, and I figured low scoring. They win 33-13. In the final play of the fucking game, Northwestern scores a meaningless touchdown to kill the under. Because otherwise, it's going to be 33-6, 39, or 37. They score to go to 46. 43.5 is ruined. The only thing, so here's the problem. This was the mistake made in going under in the game. First of all, it was 37.5, which I worried about. Secondly, it was they get 33 points. Iowa hasn't scored more than 27 the whole year. Northwestern, though, isn't over defense. So that's the problem. So this is lesson learned, right? We're trying to learn what happened. So in this situation, had they played Rutgers, this would have been, 10-0. But because they played Northwestern, who's very weak, Iowa was able to score. How did Northwestern get to the 13? It's not a lot, but they got there. Iowa seems to let up at the end of the games. So, they had the game won, and so 33-13. Again, not a big number. And had the over-under been the normal 41, 42, we would have been fine. That's why I tend to shy away from 37s and 38s and 36s under, because they can find 40 points sometimes, depending on who they're playing. If they're playing Illinois, the game won't hit 10. So, again, you try to put your under against under, not under against W. So you got to be careful there. New Mexico State, UMass. Somehow, New Mexico State's a road favorite. They're basically a W team, but I think a Z team. So both defenses suck, but both offenses are weak. My thought was to play the game under, even though it was 39, which is what prevented me from betting it. This one does what the Iowa should have done, which was 23-13, 36. It stays under the 39, which would have went to 45. And again, New Mexico State's winning all these Z teams. I think they beat, I don't know, they beat New Mexico. So they're winning a few games. Why don't I play this game under? That's really the final key to betting, is getting a New Mexico State UMass game, and it's over under 39. Realizing neither team can get 300 yards of offense and going, oh, that's a good one, I'm going to play it under. We can't trust it for whatever reason because the teams are weak. We really don't know what's going to happen. We know UMass can't score. I mean, they're a terrible offensive team. New Mexico State, they scored 21 on New Mexico, who is a very good defensive team. So we're a little worried that they maybe, score 35. And then the question is, well, Professor, why aren't we betting New Mexico State? They're only giving 1.5. We could have 4.5, and we know UMass sucks. And that is a good point, and that probably should have been the play. That was probably the best play on the board, New Mexico State. Even though they suck, UMass is horrible. There's high school teams that could beat them. So, again, UMass being the worst team, they're not going to win. You got a spread like this, again, going against the Z team, and you would have won. And that really was the best play on the board. But how do you play a W team, New Mexico State? And that's the key. If you can play that game, then you've hit the summit. I don't like the too much uncertainty in that game. Florida, Georgia, as I said, Georgia's laying 23.5. They don't cover. 42-20, they win by 22. In a teaser, they cover, but it's a big number, and I didn't want to play it. Over, under, I lock it. I lock under 57, and we get there. At first, I didn't remember what my under was, and I saw 42-20, and I said, oh, shit, I lost at 62. I know I'm in the 50s, but it was 57. I'm under 63. It ends 62. It won. So I get the win, but as the day went, I had them with UCLA over, which was again a mistake because Stanford doesn't score enough to go over with UCLA like Utah and USC and Washington and Oregon. All the other teams I've been locking them with have made sense. So I lock UCLA against Washington. It goes to 80. I lock them against Utah. It goes to 80. I lock them against Oregon. It goes to 80. But Stanford's not going to score enough for you. And that was the problem. So you got to be very careful. Yes, UCLA, love them. They're going to score a ton. And they did. I think they won 35-13, but it's not. We needed 60. We didn't really even need 60. I think I needed 57. which I thought I'd get, and maybe I'd get them all by UCLA. So it was a little bit discouraging there. But that's it. So, yes, we win to Georgia. Oregon 17.5, 56.5 against Cal. Oregon, I'm a little bit leery. I think they might be flat from the UCLA game. And they come on to Cal, who's got a fairly good defense. They played Washington 28-21. It's at Cal. So I'm a little bit worried Oregon's going to be flat. I don't play it. The over-under was 56. I did like the over, but didn't play it. And Oregon wins by 18, covering the 17.5 without the teaser. And they scored 66, and all I needed was 15 in an Oregon game. My problem is I thought I'd get the 40. I didn't know how many points I'd get from Cal. They lost to Colorado, so it really made you scramble and go, well, what am I getting from Cal in the game, which made me, as the Stanford game, get off the over, which I should have done with the UCLA game. I thought Stanford was a little bit better. Hey, Bobby, another rough NFL day. I actually did pretty well. Well, I had the game under. Well, Stanford sucks. We already know that. I did well except for Dallas and the Giants. And the Giants, these injuries are really pissing me off, right? I bet Utah because of Rising, and I don't see him on the injury report, and he doesn't play. Then I take the Giants because I see Metcalf's out with the knee, and then he plays. Like, what the fuck? How is he out with the knee, and then he plays? By the way, how did it go at Saturday at the Coin Store? Okay, I'll tell you that in a minute. Let me get through a few more games. Oregon. So that's why I kind of lay away from Oregon, Cal. Illinois, Nebraska. Illinois, great under team. Nebraska is an over team. But here's where you're going to have problems. We're in Illinois is going to dominate you like an Iowa State. When you get a strong defense and they're an under team, they don't score a lot. That's what you want. I play the game under. It's an easy winner. It's under 50, so that's enough. If I go under 56, they win 26-9, just like Iowa State. It's a beautiful under team. So as the season goes on, now we got a little list. Under teams: Iowa State, Illinois, and we just go down the list of under teams, Washington State. And when you get them in a decent situation, just then you play the under, and that's what you do. Wake Forest, Louisville. Wake Forest is an A team. They had played Clemson well. They had played well at Florida State on the road. They go to Louisville, I got them as an under team. Weak quarterbacks. I'm not really that worried. But and Wake has a defense, right? They played Florida State very tough. 31-21 or something. So this is the one thing we can't figure out. So this one does go over 48-21. This goes over. This goes 69. At Florida State, they couldn't go over. Here they do, which really kind of, gets you going crazy. But there's 8 turnovers in the game by Wake. Well, how do you predict that? Wake, great quarterback in Hartman. Not that they were all Hartman, but great quarterback. And that's where I don't understand that. You can't figure that. That's why I prefer playing the defense. The defense is going to cause turnovers, but the defense isn't going to throw 8 or get 8 turnovers. I think 5 interceptions or something. And the question is why is Hartman throwing all these? Well, once they get down, he's forcing, but that's not what you expect. But you do expect Hartman to bounce back. He's really good quarterback. If Rising plays, I expect him to play great. And in this game, I expect Hartman to play great the next game. So here's where we get him on the rebound. There's nothing you can do. 8 turnovers. Now, again, I think I have this with Utah. So, again, trying to close my teaser, I'm getting these one-off crazinesses, the Iowa game, this game, Oklahoma State. It's insane. And they're not in the same – sometimes I'm lucky where I got a teaser and both teams lose. Unfortunately, I had the winner-loser. It was a 6 Saturday. They didn't do bad, but the teasers got fucked. All right, so I'll leave it at Navy Temple. So, Bobby, let's talk gold and silver for 2 seconds, and we'll get back to it later. Gold and silver, I go in, he has no gold. He's out of gold. Nothing, not an ounce. He says everybody's running in and buying it. Silver he had. I bought some buffaloes. I bought 10 buffaloes at $23 an ounce. He did have a $5 bar or 10 ounce. No, I think he had a 5-ounce bar, like the 10-ounce bar that we got. And he had a bunch of them of the Liberties at 35. So plenty of silver, no gold. As I was in the store, some lady was bringing her gold in to sell. And I just said, lady, just hold on another month. Hold on to the end of the year. And we see the Pakistan price. And I showed the guy the Pakistan price Saturday. It was $120,000 an ounce for the Pakistan. Now it's 220 Pakistan to US dollar. So if you divide the 220 out, it's still a healthy gain. And even the guy at the store said, I wonder if we can fly to Pakistan and sell it. And I go, don't worry, it's coming here. It's not just in other people will see it, and that'll raise the price, which shows how it was manipulated. So I bought my 10 ounces of silver. He had no gold to buy. And again, he's getting it in, and that's it. He did tell me about this diesel fuel shortage, which I don't freaking understand that. I think that's a political issue that somehow the election's next week or this week, and Biden will save the day saying, oh, look, we're out of diesel. I'll come in and save the day. Vote for me. These guys are so strange about trying to buy votes because they're not strong that you would want to vote for them. So they have to fantasize and make this trouble and then save the day and then say, look what we did, even though you're the one who caused it by not allowing these guys to drill the oil to make diesel. So we're running out of diesel. I don't know if that means there's no food. The trucks need diesel to travel. But will that be, and how long will that be? We don't know. So that's we'll talk about it later, Bobby. Let me get through the college. Okay, Navy 14.5 and a 40 against Temple. Temple's a pretty good under team. Navy is an under team that's been scoring. So now the last 4 weeks, they've gotten 27 and in the 30s against Houston and against SMU. And there was one, I think Tulsa they beat. So when I saw 40, I liked the game over, even though it went against Temple being an under and Navy statistically being an under. But in the last 3 weeks, they were over. So Navy, I think this went to overtime. I think it was 20-20, but 40 goes over 34, and we hit that. And that's where you just got to keep an eye on what's happening. And knowing Navy's been scoring gives you the over in this game. Although Temple was hard to play because Temple doesn't score a lot, and they're a pretty good defensive team. And even though Navy scores, so Navy did win. You couldn't lay the 14.5, you lose, but you did go over because the over was so low at 40-34, and you win. Cincinnati UCF. I played UCF was 1.5, 56. I like Cincinnati as a dog. They win 25-21. UCF scores on the last play of the game to win 25-21. Both teams are A teams, which means they both score. They're strong scoring and strong defense. So you really are kind of like, how do I play it? The over-under was 56. I thought it would be under because Cincinnati's it's not going to play in a 60-point game here, and that's what they do. So the under does win, but I liked Cincy as the dog. My spread was Cincy -7. The quarterback was back. UCF runs the ball a lot. That's all they got. Plumlee from Ole Miss is the quarterback who runs a lot, not a very good thrower, and therefore I knew Cincinnati's defense was going to hold them, and it did. So 25-21, 46. I played the dog. The under was a good play also, but I didn't want to play them both. So I win with that. North Texas, Western Kentucky. kind of a surprising score here. Western Kentucky's an A team, so you're expecting them to score with a good defense. North Texas is a B team, so you're expecting them to score, and they have a weak defense. Maybe they're an over. I think they're an over team. So I'm expecting them to score a lot. I'm expecting Western Kentucky to score a lot. The over-under 69 is ridiculous. It's way too high. And I didn't expect North Texas to win. They win easy, 40-13. Again, not the outcome you would have never saw that coming. Now, you could have played North Texas because Western Kentucky, because North Texas can really score a lot. So you get 15 in North Texas, probably was a good play. As it turns out, it was a great play, 40-13. But that's where you're at. So 40-13. So when you get to these over teams, if you're not playing another over team, and Western Kentucky used to be an over team, is not right now, and scores 13 points, which you can't understand unless there was an injury, how Western Kentucky can only score 13 on a weak defense like North Texas. That's what doesn't make any sense. However, North Texas in 15, even if Western Kentucky was up, North Texas scores a lot. So you would think they would backdoor or whatever to get back down to the 15. SMU Tulsa, this is over and over. Now, as I asked Alex, who lives in Houston, going, what's with Mordecai, who's the quarterback of SMU, who came from Oklahoma, and he lights it up. He's a good quarterback, and he's not playing. Well, I can't play the over in the game because Mordecai's not the quarterback, except for their backup's pretty damn good too. It ends up where SMU wins 45-34. They play a 79. The over-under was 64. So you can see if Mordecai plays, I'm going to play this game over. Well, without him, I don't know who the backup is. Now, on a team like SMU, the backup's probably pretty good because it's a system there. So you get to 79. So without Mordecai, they're still fine. Tulsa's an over team. So you had two over teams. Had the quarterback played, it's an over. It's probably a lock at 64. He doesn't play, you don't play the game. That's all the little intangibles that fuck up your betting. You're waiting on the quarterback, and he doesn't play, I don't play it. Now, again, not knowing the backup. If I knew the backup was good, like being on Kansas. It's a perfect example. Daniels goes down, Kansas is quarterback, and I'm thinking, well, that's why they're scoring. And I figure I got screwed against, it was either Baylor or TCU, and they're getting beat. And Bean throws like 4 touchdown passes in the second half. And I think it was TCU, and they lose 38-31. And the 69, and we're over 62, W. But then I see Bean is not a bad backup quarterback, but he came in at the guy got injured at halftime. So it's not like I knew Bean was going to be the quarterback, and therefore I didn't bet it. I bet it on the starter who gets hurt. Now Bean I'm stuck with, but I win, and now I see Bean's fine. I don't have any problem with Bean, just like the SMU backup. So sometimes the backup's good. Sometimes you get stuck with him, and sometimes he comes in and you get your ass kicked. But this was a game now, SMU, we know they're an over team. So a 69 with Tulsa, which makes sense. Tulsa's a very high-scoring team. South Alabama, Ark State. I know people like South Alabama here, 9.5, over under 53. South Alabama's a B team, very strong defense. They scored 31 on UCLA, so they have a good offense. Ark State's an over team. But as you can see, a good team. South Alabama probably ran the ball down their throats and win 31-3. Again, you have the under team going against the over team, and the under team wins because they have the better. But this has got to be an A or a B, right? If it's like an Iowa, then I don't know, one of these under teams, not Illinois, but if it's like an Iowa type or Iowa State. Then you would never take Ark State against South Alabama, but you can see why. Against the under team, they can't score, and they don't have a defense. So South Alabama was able to score. Ark State couldn't against this defense, 31-3. So that's kind of how you look at it. Missouri, South Carolina, both teams have strong defenses. We know Rattler sucks for South Carolina. He sucked at Oklahoma. Missouri with an under team played Georgia 26-22. So that's all you need to know. Both teams have weak quarterbacks, which turn the ball over a lot. That's what that means. I'll say weak as in weak offense. They don't get 300 yards. But if it's a weak quarterback, 7 touchdowns, 11 interceptions. So it's, be careful. And here the game 44.5. I go under 23-10, 33 does stay under. So this was a game that went according to the way it was. Why do I play Notre Dame Syracuse as opposed to this game? It's just the luck of the draw, and Notre Dame happened to get the turnovers and the blocked punts, and the quarterback got hurt in the game versus this game. So it's all like, this is the hard part about betting. You can figure out the games, and you have 15 games, and then you go, well, I got the under here and I got this under. Who do I play? Why didn't I play UMass New Mexico State under? Why didn't I play where am I? Missouri, South Carolina under. Instead, I played the Iowa and the Notre Dame under. Those two lose, the other two win. It's just part of betting, and it's just there's nothing you can do. It just is the way it is. So that's what I try to eliminate, and I try to study and go, well, who do I want? Who do I feel more comfortable with? Bobby, that's cool. You got another bar and some buffalo rounds. I tried getting buffaloes, but the dude was only selling them by 20, so I will get soon. And I just got 5 1-ounce coins. Yeah, I mean, that's fine. I asked him about you. I said, why didn't you sell to my friend? He said, well, the shipping's more expensive, and I thought he could do well in Florida. And I said, did you know you were talking to Bobby Bonilla, the baseball player? And he says, no. I said, oh, okay. Well, that's who you were talking to. I said, should I keep sending my guys to you? I mean, if you're not going to send it, I won't waste their time. I'm doing it for you, not for him. So he was like, yeah. I mean, he wasn't like mean, like, who are you? I don't want to send it to you. But because had you been buying gold, he probably would have, because it makes sense if it's $15 or $20 shipping. But the shipping is going up. So that's why he didn't. But, yeah, he's got plenty if you want to buy from him. Where are we? USC, Arizona. Now this goes to 82. The over-under was 76, and this I kind of warned you about. It's such a big over. And the only way to get the over is you need a competitive game, which you got. Arizona throws the ball. They score. They're an over team. USC's more of an A team with a fairly good defense, but I can't think of the word. It's misrepresented, let's say. So they're an under team, but they're really not. Like, as you saw against Utah, Utah scored 43 on them. So if you have a good offense, they're not really an under team. So it's very misleading. And that gets into the schedule. If they play a bunch of weak teams and they blow them out, then you think they're an under. But the key is to look at how they did against Utah, and they gave up 42. So they're really not that strong of an under. And the game went over. USC, we know, scores. I would have, like I said, if this was a 68, 69, even a 70, this would have been a lock over. This made more sense than the UCLA-Stanford game going over, because Arizona can score where Stanford doesn't score as much. And again, but I couldn't. 76 was way too many, and they do hit it. They do go to 82. So there, USC -8 is a push. So if you did bet USC, you pushed. If you did go over, you're fine. That's why you don't go under. Even though it was 76, you don't play it under. You just don't play it. And they happen to get there, they get there, but you can't play the game under. That's ridiculous. You cannot play USC under unless they're playing Iowa State, or in their conference, Washington State, and that game did go under. It was 30-14. It was a 44. So if you're playing a really strong defense, and that's my case, that's why I bet the Iowa State's under, the Illinois under, and here you can see the Washington State's under, and in this case, Arizona's an over team. So that's when you look. That's why you got to understand the team. Coastal Carolina, Marshall, I had no idea on this game. Marshall, lane 2.5, 53.5, and I figure it's an under because Marshall's a really strong defensive team. They did beat Notre Dame in a low-scoring game. Here comes Coastal Carolina having trouble, but they have McCall. McCall lights it up against them. They win 24-13. I don't know how you see this coming. Marshall with a strong defense. Coastal Carolina is an over defense, but Marshall, well, they're a B team. They can score a little bit and a good defense. So I don't, under, I did like it. I didn't play it, but I did like it. And that's why sometimes I go over, under versus teams. There's no way you could have predicted Coastal Carolina an 8.5 is going to cover. You couldn't bet Marshall because you're scared of Coastal Carolina. So it was a really crossed out game. You couldn't go over because Marshall's got a great defense. So the only play was under, which I circled, but I didn't play it. Again, they play at 37. How did they play at 37 and Notre Dame, Syracuse plays at 70? Unbelievable. Or Dallas, Chicago for that matter. See, that just shows you it doesn't always go according to what you think. There's turnovers, there's block punts, there's fumbled punts. It's all over the place. You just don't know what you're going to get. That's why we can't bet $1 million on a game. That's why we average it out. In the long run, I'm way ahead, but there's always those games that fuck you up. But you got to understand that coming in. You're not always going to win with pocket aces, which is why I use that analogy. You get pocket aces. Well, we had a guy on last week said, I lost three times in a row with pocket aces. That pocket aces you lose with, here you got other. And so it's just not an exact science, but I try to make it an exact science. I get as close as you can to an exact science. UAB, Florida Atlantic, again, a game you could never have picked. UAB, an A team, laying 4.5. Florida Atlantic's been sucking. Over under 47. I like the game under because UAB is one of these A teams, so they're a good offense with a strong defense. Again, I don't want to bet a strong defense over. Florida Atlantic's been weak. They win the game 24-17, I assume, on the turnovers. Or I assume what's happening is this is the fourth down bullshit. Well, UAB probably has the ball at the 25 or the 20. They don't go for it. They go for the first down instead of the field goal. They don't get it. They lose momentum. And Florida Atlantic wins. I took notes on that. In some of the games I lost, I went and I saw they went for it on fourth down. They didn't get it, and then they lost. And there was a couple of pro games I saw like that where they didn't get it, and I lost, and you're like, fuck, kick the field goal. I don't remember what it was. I think it was the Buffalo. No, I don't know if that was it. But I know there was a game I was watching, and they get down to the 10-yard line. It's fourth down, and it's like, kick the field goal, dude. And they don't kick the field goal, and then they don't make it. And you're like, and then you wonder why they lose. Oh, you lost because you didn't kick the field goal. I think it was Michigan State. It's 10-7. You're at the 10-yard line. It's 4th and 3. You're not going to make it against this defense. Kick the field goal. No, they run it into the middle of the line. They lose 3 yards, and that was the game. The game was over at that point. Michigan comes down and scores. Michigan State never gets close again. And the announcer, the idiot Herb Kirkstreet, goes, well, they were aggressive. No, that's not being aggressive. That's being stupid. You're trying to win the game, not be aggressive. That's not the time to be aggressive. There's nothing to gain. Even if you get the first down, you still got the ball at the 7. Like Ocean's 11, even if you do rob the casino, you're still in the middle of the fucking desert. If you go for it and you make it, you're still at the 8-yard line. And now what do? Now you'll be kicking the field goal 3 plays later. Or do you just keep going on 4th down until you lose the ball? I don't know what these idiots do, but there's a serious lack of coaching going on. Boise, 25.5, 41.5, a real weird line. How do you lay 25 but over under a 41? Colorado State, the Z team, and they played like it. And Boise was able to light up the Z team. I assume they got some defensive points. Boise's an under team, which is exactly what they did. They shut them down to 10. They happened to score 49. I thought the game would stay under. I didn't think Boise could score 49. They haven't. So they did go over the under. So that's where you bet against the Z team instead of fucking with the over-under. Now, if you played another Z team, then you can go under, like New Mexico State and Mass are both weak teams. There's not going to be scoring, but in this game, Boise's a pretty decent offense, so they were able to put up 49. So it would have behooved you to lay the 25, and they win by 39. Tennessee, Kentucky. I play the game over. That's our free play. And 44-6. We needed one more touchdown. So we get 50. We want 55, 56. We don't get there. Where's Kentucky? They only scored 6 points. How many times did they go for it on 4th down and not get it? I don't know what it is. They blow them out. But I'm not getting points from Kentucky, which I'm figuring I'm going to get 20 points. They're a pretty good offensive team. Levis, their quarterback, was playing. The only thing I can say about the game is they both have under defenses, but I question Tennessee's because Florida put up a 30 on them. Alabama put up a 49. So I don't really think they have an under defense. Kentucky, on the other hand, they'll give up 20, 30 points. I knew Tennessee was going to score. I just couldn't believe Kentucky didn't, because when I see Tennessee's an under, but not when they played Florida, I'm assuming Kentucky gets up 20. All I need is one more touchdown. Tennessee does not have the Georgia defense, so I was kind of shocked by that score. I wasn't shocked Tennessee put up 44, but if I knew Kentucky wasn't scoring, we would have laid 5.5 instead of going over. Michigan State, another game that I thought would be higher scoring. Michigan really sucks. Kentucky, just played terrible. Bobby, speaking of bad coaching, I couldn't believe the USC coach Lincoln went for an onside kick while being up 10. It was a damn joke and made me wonder. Well, that's like the fumble play, right? Where they're not going to do anything with it, and then it ends up in the end zone, and the other team gets the touchdown, and it fucks the under or it fucks the points. So it's almost a planned play, and I think we saw a little bit too much of that this weekend. I don't know if they shit the bed. Well, I don't know what happened. I got to watch I think I did watch the replay. Levis just didn't show up, but Tennessee does not have that strong of a defense. Although I did see they were wearing black, and it was one of these whiteout games. And that goes back to the Notre Dame green jersey game in the 70s. And I had a friend who bet with me, and he says, I'm never betting again because of the green jersey. To me, the buy is not helpful. It's harmful because it throws your timing off. But so he says, I'll never bet again. Notre Dame was wearing green jerseys. And I didn't see that. He bet it was against USC. He bets USC. They're number 1 in the country, and he loses. Well, you know the name of the quarterback in the green jersey Notre Dame game? It's a guy named Joe Montana. That's why they won. It wasn't the green jersey. They had Joe Montana. And that's why I do the quarterback stats. That's how I pick up a Rising and I pick up a Van Dyke. I won't get fucked by a Joe Montana because I'll know this guy's great. He probably threw 25 touchdowns and 2 interceptions, and I wouldn't bet against him. That's why I do it, so I don't get Joe Montana. And, that's where I'm picking up all these guys from. And that's why you see me bet Hartman, bet Rising, bet TCU. Their quarterback's great. Bet Baylor, bet Oklahoma State, Oklahoma. All these teams, Oregon, they all have great quarterbacks. UCLA, Utah, right down the line, because it's the quarterback. So first you got to understand that's the variable, and then you got to find it. So if you just go into Yahoo stats and do quarterbacks, all of a sudden they jump out at you, and you see one that, boom, he's 15 touchdowns and 1 interception. I ain't betting against that guy, or I'm going to go over with him. And that's what you do. Getting time to rest your players and plan more hurts you. Well, it doesn't. What hurts you is the timing, right? Levis got hurt. He played the week prior, and then the timing is off with Levis. The Peyton Manning, whenever they would take the bye because they had clinched the playoffs, and he sits out a week, and then they get the bye, so they're off for 2 weeks. They never won a playoff game. That's when they lost to Jerome Bettis in Pittsburgh. They're on a 3-week vacation, and then when they got to go play, there's no timing. And that's the problem, and these coaches are so worried about injury. It's fucking football. Guess what? You're going to get injured. There's nothing you can do about it. More importantly, you keep the timing going, right? You didn't see Hooker come off the field in the third quarter. He played the whole game because you want to keep him in there. Well, he might get hurt. Who cares? He might get hurt tripping over, coming out of the shower. There's nothing you can do. It's football, and you just hope they don't get hurt, but there's nothing you can do with it. Anyway, so Michigan State. Michigan lays 22.5, wins by 22. Somehow they don't cover. To your point, Bobby, how did they not cover the 22 with the way they were dominating the game? Bobby, I think I have come to the conclusion that Levis sucks against halfway decent teams. Well, he was pretty good against Florida, which I think's a decent team. I don't know. I wouldn't bet him against Georgia, that's for sure. That's coming up. Yeah, well, I mean, he's a decent court. They're a decent team. They're not an elite team. They're a good team. So, but they should not have gotten 6 points against Tennessee. They should have gotten at least in the 20s there. Typically Kentucky team whose Super Bowl every year is beating a bad Florida team. Well, no, they didn't beat Florida for a long time. Their Super Bowl is Tennessee, so I was really surprised by that. Not Florida. Georgia's Florida, and Florida State's Florida. Not necessarily Kentucky. All right, so Michigan runs the ball to death, takes all the clock out, doesn't score. Michigan State was dead after they didn't kick the field goal at the 10-yard line on 4th and 3. It's 10-7, go 10-10. You'd have had a game. That was the game when it goes for it on 4th down. Over under of 53. I was over 47. It was ridiculous. 29-7. Michigan State does not have a good defense. Wisconsin lit them up. Sorry. Wisconsin doesn't have a good defense. So how did Michigan State score 38 on Wisconsin? They put up 20 on Ohio State, and yet against Michigan they put up a 7. Well, they should have put up a 10. Michigan only puts up 29. They put up 41 on Penn State. Harbaugh runs the ball to death. Ohio State's going to kill Michigan. First of all, the Michigan quarterback stinks. He missed so many open receivers. A lot of the catches he did make were behind the receivers. This guy's terrible. I don't know. Everybody's talking him up like he'll be in the Heisman belt. Fuck that guy. Are you kidding? How many good quarterbacks did I just name? Hooker, Rising, Thompson Robinson, Caleb Williams at USC, Bo Nix at Oregon, Penix at Washington. Let's go to Spencer Sanders at Oak State, and you can name the Baylor, and you can name TCU's quarterback. They're all better than him. What the fuck are they talking about? It just blows my mind where you come. They think because they're undefeated, the quarterback should be in the Heisman. But if you lost the game, you shouldn't be. Are you kidding me? Fucking Rising's 20 times better than this guy. So that's what we keep in the back pocket. And the Vegas odds makers think this McCarthy's so much better. And that's where we get better spreads on the Risings and that. And Michigan and Notre Dame and Alabama get these huge spreads. And that's why we avoid them usually. Yeah, Tennessee, Georgia analysis. I gotta do that. Okay, Tennessee is getting 9 points. What the fuck would be your excuse, meaning Tennessee, if you lose? I don't understand. Yeah, Caleb Williams is the real. Yeah, he looks really good. But again, Oklahoma always has that system, so we don't know. Tennessee's getting 9. So that's the spread's 9 or 3 in the Georgia game. I even looked at it. I put in my own, which I'll look at. I actually have my line on the game, if I can find it. See, next week I only had 4 teams on page 2. This week I got 10 teams, 15 games on page 2. Let's see. So where's the Georgia Tennessee game? Boy, I'm dying for the over-unders. We got Baylor, Oklahoma. We got Oregon, I love, over Colorado. West Virginia, Iowa State. I already got that as an under. Oak State, Kansas. Another, please let it be like low 60s. That'll be a lock. Michigan State, Illinois. That could be a lock under. Oh, my God. I mean, all right, here it is. Tennessee, Georgia. I get my spreads, Georgia minus 10. Both teams are A. Both teams are great defenses. I think I like the over in the game because Georgia's really not. Florida got 20 on them, really. So I don't know. I got to see what the line is. Then we'll know. Bobby, it's unfortunate that USC defense is so shitty, or Williams would take him to the playoff for sure. They're a weird defense in that they let you go down the field. The first game against Stanford, that was my first lock. USC's laying 7 to Stanford, and I know they got the Oklahoma offense. They're going to score. They win by 30. That was the easiest lock I think I had this year, USC minus 1. But I noticed Stanford drove the ball down on them, get to the 10-yard line, and then they had 3 or 4 turnovers, and they didn't score, or they'd go for it on 4th and didn't make it. So USC's defense gets better at the goal line. At least it did until Utah ripped it up. But you can't blame that. He's an offensive coach. He's never had a good defense at Oklahoma. So if you gave him if you gave him the Illinois defense, USC would never lose. Derek, they're getting 9 points. I feel Tennessee should at least beat the spread. Well, I don't know. You don't fuck with Georgia. That's kind of my law. It's very difficult, although the fact they beat Alabama, I do like that. The game's in Georgia. I think, yeah, Georgia's at home. My spread's minus 10. You're saying they're minus 9. That's about right. It comes down to the defense. Can Tennessee stop Georgia? We know Georgia can stop Tennessee, but we're not sure because Alabama couldn't stop them. Although we know Georgia's defense is better than Alabama's. However, we do know Georgia gave up 20 to Florida. So what we know is, what's the over-under on the game, Derek? I think that's the way to go in this game. If it's a normal, give me a 50. If you give me a 50, this is over. Well, I don't lose money betting against Georgia. I either take them or I watch, like I did against Vanderbilt. I locked them against Florida. We win under. I didn't fuck with the 23.5, which they didn't cover. They would have in a teaser. So depending on the over-under in the game, and I haven't looked. And again, I make my own line, so I'm not prejudiced to the line. So I haven't seen it yet. I'm going to look later at what the line is. I've got at least 10 games that I love next week. Like I said, Baylor, Oklahoma is it's already an over unless you give me a 76. I'm hoping they'll be in the 60s, especially the Kansas game. I loved Kansas Oak State. That'll be a 100-point game. Oak State's pissed off. Kansas can't stop the win, but they can score, and this is going to be a high-scoring game. So that's what I got. Now, Michigan State, Illinois. Michigan State will be flat. I love Illinois under. Illinois is a really strong team this year. All right, let me finish up. So Michigan runs it. When they play Ohio State will take the run away, and then the quarterback has to beat him. He can't do it. Their defense is not that strong. Ohio State will light them up. Ohio State, please give me 7 or less with Ohio State, and it's a lock, Ohio State -1 or 2. They will beat Michigan. It's revenge, and it's at Ohio, and they're going to kill them. Michigan is not that strong. This score, 29-7, is not is ridiculous, and they beat Penn State at home. I don't know. Ohio State is much the better team. So if we get a 7, we're just going to jump on it. Mississippi A&M. Mississippi was 2.5, 54.5. I like the under, which squeaked through. It was a 59, so under 60, 61 wins. Really couldn't play all of a sudden A&M scoring. So so here I got Mississippi as an under and A&M as an under defense, and yet it's 31-28. How does A&M get 28 on an under defense? The same thing with Mississippi. So here's where you get skewed by the preseason or the weak teams they play the first 3 weeks, or the Division II when they're winning 62-0, makes them look like they got an under team, and they don't. And that's what you've got to be careful of. I like the under, but we got screwed with A&M under the week before, so I didn't play it. Didn't really love it, but again, it was in the mid-50s with A&M's. Pretty much, if you got 60, it's going to go under like the Iowa State stuff. Baylor against Texas Tech. Now, this is the exact twin of Oak State, Kansas State. Oak State, 10-point favorite. K-State's a 1.5. I take Oak State. They lose 48-0. Here, Baylor's a 10-point favorite. Texas Tech lays 2.5, so I lock Baylor with Oak State. Baylor wins 45-17. That's what I was expecting from Oak State, but you get it with Baylor. You don't get it with Oak State. And again, it broke the teaser because the one wins and the one loses. And it was very frustrating day, but you can see there the logic worked. So the logic works a lot, but this was just one of those weeks. And I had a very good week. It was just these few losers, the Wake Forest, the Oak State, and then the Tennessee over. I have it with what? I have it with Iowa State under. Iowa State doesn't even get close to the number. And then you just need Tennessee over, Michigan over, and they don't show up. Michigan over, maybe I shouldn't have played. Tennessee over, I don't have a problem playing Tennessee overs. So Baylor kicks the shit out of them as expected. The over was 60. They actually got there. It was 62, but I love Baylor as the dog. When you get a chance to play Baylor as a dog, even Oak State, TCU, you just play them. They're just because they're very strong. They're all playoff teams. This bullshit about only 14, who else is there? Oak State, TCU should be in the playoff. UCLA, Utah beat USC, so they should be in the playoff. Oregon, Washington, whoever wins should be in the playoff. This is bullshit. You got at least 10 good teams that should be in the playoff. And, well, no, it can only be SEC teams, and it can only be Alabama and Georgia. Well, I'll tell you, it should be Alabama, Georgia, and Tennessee should all be in the playoffs. So you got an easy 15 good teams that would be very good games, but you're going to have 4? Who the fuck thought of that? You've got all these conferences. The conference champs should be rewarded. And then you got all these runner-ups, but because they play each other, they all get losses, right? How can Oak State and TCU, one of them's got to lose? So TCU's undefeated, but they got to play Texas. And Oklahoma. Well, I think they beat Oklahoma. But I mean, look at all these big games they play. Of course, you're going to. UCLA beats Utah. Utah beats USC. What, they're not good teams? This is the bullshit of the playoff. Anyway, so anytime you get Baylor as a dog, you just bet it, especially against a Texas Tech or West Virginia, the teams that aren't that strong. And Kansas State is they're not no TCU and they're not no Baylor. So how they blew them out, I have no fucking idea. I guess maybe they laid down and said, "Oh, okay, yeah, we'll lay down for you." It's the only thing I can come up with because 48-0, really. Derek, 65. That's an over, I think, although it's hard with Georgia to go over 65, but we'll see. I got to think about it. If you watch that Penn State game, Ohio State was exposed even though they won down the stretch. Penn State gave them a scare. Well, Penn State gave them a lot of turnovers. That's what Michigan's going to do, right? Their quarterback sucks. He's going to throw the interceptions. And again, the game was at Penn State, and yeah, they got scared, but they won by 30. Or they won 44-31. They won by 13, and they got scared, but they got the interceptions, and they'll do that against Michigan. I see Michigan beating Ohio State. I'll bet you any day. We'll play it even. How much you want to bet? Arizona State, 13.5, 48.5. That one came way down from 50-something. Or no, it was 46, went to 48. How does this score happen? Arizona State, 42, Colorado, 34. Colorado hasn't scored 34 points in a month. Lights up Arizona State for 34. Both teams have over defenses, but Colorado doesn't score. They're a Z. That takes me to the box score. That takes me to the quarterbacking going, did they switch quarterbacks? Which I think they did. And now this guy lights it up. So now Colorado moves from a Z to an over. So now you got to be careful. Or was it a fluke that the one game he plays, but then the next week he looks like shit again? So that's the thing with the new quarterback. You don't have tape on him. So he lights you up because you're not ready for him. And then now the tape's out, and now the next team sees him going, that's what he likes to do. We'll defend him. And then he doesn't show up again. So are you going to get a Van Dyke and a Rising who did it over and over, or are you going to get a guy that can't, had a fluke against Arizona State, who's not a very strong defensive team? But anyway, you couldn't have saw that coming with an over-under of 48. They get a 76. Well, at least I didn't bet that game under. I even have Colorado as a weak offense. They don't even get 300 yards. They put up 34 points. Unbelievable. Pitt, North Carolina. I'd like North Carolina here. They're only laying 3. I have a -7. I think they should have been a higher spread. North Carolina is a very good coach. I love their quarterback. Pitt, I don't know what they're doing with Slovis. Not very good. Not surprised by that one. I didn't go over. They just 65. They got 66. But I think North Carolina -3 was a better play. Again, wishing I had played them instead of Wake Forest. But, after the game, it's real easy. My brother always did that. That's why I don't talk to him. He'd say, "You didn't need the teaser." And I'd go, "Yeah, anybody can bet when the game's over. I could go 100% after the game's over." I hated that logic. UTEP 2.5, 52 against Middle Tennessee. Middle Tennessee wins 24-13. I did say UTEP was a weak favorite, weak quarterback, and Middle Tennessee's an over team. So that made sense that UTEP wouldn't score enough to really bother it, and you're getting 8.5. So that one made perfect sense. I'll be with the comments in 1 minute. Fresno State, 10.5, 42.5 against San Diego State. Where does this score come from? 32-28. I know Hayner's out. He's got a broken ankle. The other guy sucks. They scored 38. San Diego State, where do they get 28? In what I thought was an under game with an over-under of 42 and a weak offense in San Diego State. How the fuck does this score happen? 32-28. Again, the unexpected happens. Now, this isn't a fix. They would have just needed to get to 45 to break the over. So I don't know. Fresno State laying 10.5. was way too much. It was 8.5, so something happened to make it go to 10.5, and apparently the Sharps were wrong again. So 32-28, a 60-point game, and with San Diego State, you'll never see it again. Nevada, San Jose State. Again, we avoid San Jose State like the plague after they fucked us against Fresno State. They win 35-28. Lane, 24. Over under a 45 to a terrible Nevada team. I expected San Jose State to score, but San Jose State's got a good defense. Where the fuck's Nevada getting 28 points from? Again, the team with no offense either switches quarterbacks or does something weird and puts up 28. So sometimes they switch quarterbacks because they get injured. Sometimes, usually they get injured and then they bring it in. That's how Van Dyke got in. De'Ara King, who played 10 years at Houston, plays and he gets hurt. And then, I guess we'll go to the third stringer Van Dyke. And you look at the coach going, how the fuck is this guy your third stringer? He's the first round draft pick. And that's why the coach is no longer there, because he can't recognize talent. And most coaches are idiots. They go, well, he's a senior. I'll play De'Ara King. Yeah, I got Joe Montana here, third string. What are you doing? Just a second, Derek. I'll be with you. UCLA, Stanford, UCLA 16.5, 63, 64 and the over. I get a little too aggressive locking it. Stanford doesn't really score much, has a weak defense. UCLA, obviously, we know they score a ton and an average defense. I expected UCLA to get into the 50s, which 50-13, 63 would have made it for us. They only scored 38. Stanford gets 13, which is about what I expected. I thought UCLA would score more, probably going for fourth down or maybe the quarterback. I don't know. I'll have to check the box score. But how did they only score 38 points in this game? Wyoming, Hawaii, Wyoming 11.5, over under a 50. Both teams suck offensively, very weak offenses, and over under a 50, 27-20. Where does Hawaii get 20? Wyoming 27. Wyoming has a pretty good defense. This was kind of a surprise. If you played a -5.5, you win with Wyoming. If you played under 50, you win with that, which is the logical. Both teams have weak offenses. Again, so you got to keep an eye on what the fuck happened with Fresno State, San Diego State, San Jose State, Nevada, Wyoming, Hawaii. Where are you getting these points from that shouldn't be there? Where are you getting the points in Arizona State, Colorado? And who knows what happened to Kentucky, and Florida Atlantic beats UAB. So that's what I concentrate on, is what the fuck happened there. Probably new quarterbacks, which you're totally blindsided by, which is why it's hard. Now you're okay with it. Now I go, okay, San Diego State's got a new quarterback, they're scoring. Or Nevada switched quarterbacks, now this guy's good. I mean, now you can prepare for it, but you couldn't prepare for it last week. So when we add it up, let's see, 0-1, 1-1, 1-2, 2-2, 2-3, 3-3, 4-3, 5-3, 5-4, 6-4, 7-4, 7-5, 8-5, 9-5, 9-6, 9-7, 10-7. You can see too many games already. I go 10-8. Way too many games. You should play your best 10. That's why I play the 10-team teasers. It forces me into my best 10. Some of them I played late, like the Miami game. I wasn't going to play. Van Dyke's out, and it was an easy win. Iowa, I shouldn't have played. I wasn't going to, but I needed to match Miami up. And then really the problem was the Oak State and then the Tennessee and the Michigan overs. Those were the problems. You couldn't have seen the Tennessee or the Oak State. It just happens. So there's nothing you can do. So let's look at next week. So the key is to look at the box scores. Well, what the fuck happened when you're expecting a team to score 10 and they score 40? What the fuck happened? The other teams that do what you should do, you've got those pegged. So it's the change. It's usually a changing quarterback. I'm not going to take the points and tease it. Easy winner. Michigan with points guaranteed. Liberty plays Arkansas minus 13. What do you think about that? I don't know. I have to get to it. UCLA is giving Arizona State 12 in Arizona. I don't think that Arizona State wins. Again, you need a basis for predicting that. I don't want all the lines right now, Derek. Please, I need to get the line and study it, and I feel it. So I don't want to know all the lines. I will walk through on Thursday the games, but right now I need to study them. So all I can say is what I see now. Tomorrow or today, you got Mac. So I got to get the lines on that. Kent and Ball State. I'm seeing probably a over game. I don't know. Kent hasn't been scoring. Buffalo, Ohio. Buffalo's the better team. Again, I see that. And again, it depends on the line. We got MAC games on Wednesday. Then we got 2 games Thursday. We got 3 games Friday. Do you understand this is all about betting? This is so you bet the game tonight. That's what this is. This is Vegas going, oh, we'll put a game out there. They'll bet it. We could put anything out there. They'll bet it. And then that's what you see. And the only reason they're playing, and it fucks up, like the MAC's all fucked up now. You got Ball State playing on a Tuesday. They're not used. They're playing Saturdays. All of a sudden, they play on Tuesday, and then MAC's on Wednesday. These guys are not – they're so out of schedule. It makes it very, very difficult to play it. You got to really have some good numbers, and then, Northern Illinois should beat Central. They're playing shitty. Western stinks against Bowling Green. They should win. Ohio, Buffalo, I got to see what the line is. Could be a live dog there. And Kent, Ball State. Kent's been disappointing. You got to check their quarterback, Schnee, if he's playing, and Ball State, is pretty weak. So, but that's so you bet. And the same thing Thursday, UTEP, Rice, App State. Who's going to bet UTEP, Rice? If it was a normal schedule, are you going to go, oh, UTEP, Rice, I'm going to play that one? Or App State, Coastal, I could see playing. Friday, you got Duke, okay, UConn and Mass, really? And Oregon State, Washington. Now, that's a good game. But it's a counter game, right? You got a good defense in Oregon State playing a great offense in Washington. Really makes it hard. You got to look at the line and the over-under. It's not an over game. Oregon State can score. They switch quarterbacks, but really you're looking Washington. This is a pretty tough defense. Again, they held USC 17-13. So this is not necessarily a 70-point game like if they were playing Oregon. That's when you go to the 70s. So be careful on that. So if I go down the list, Air Force, Army, I would think would be an under game because they each know each other's offense. Bobby, what do you think about tonight? I still kind of like it over because the Browns score and have no defense. Cincinnati's got Burrow. Even though they lost Chase, which hurts, they still have it. Brown's back is against the wall. I don't buy that. Giving Brown, I think Brown's your thoughts. No, you cannot. Every team's back's against the wall. You can't play. It's only with really good teams. It's an art of war thing, as I explained yesterday, where the team, it's a military thing where basically the one side, has got the other side pinned. Literally, their backs against the castle. I mean, this was Japan. So literally, Team A, this is a war. This is a real war. It's fighting Team B, and Team A's backed them against the wall. So there's nowhere for Team B to go, or Army B. And here comes Army A. Their backs are literally against the wall. They're going to die. And they get the adrenaline and go, fuck, if I'm going to die anyway, because they got me, I'm going to fight with my back against the wall, do or die. That's really what it is. You can't just use it on every team because they got to be able to fight. That's the problem. the Lions' back's been against the wall for 6 weeks. You're going to call the backs against the wall? No, they suck. They don't have backs against the wall because they're not good. It can only be a good team. It can be Tampa Bay a few years ago when Brady got hurt or missed the first 4 games, which is really strange because the thing happened 2 years ago. And they were like 2-3, and Miami was like 4-1. That was back against the wall because if New England lost that game to Miami at home, they would have been 2-4. Miami would have been 5-1, and it would have been all over. That's a good example of a back against the wall, but you can't use it on every team because it's a theory that you're going to bet the team. Well, can you bet Cleveland tonight? No. Can you bet the Lions ever? No. There's a lot of teams. You're going to bet Jacksonville? Their back's against the wall? No, because they can't. They're going to die, basically, right? These are teams that don't fight, that you can't play it. So it's got to be – and no, Green Bay's backs are not against the wall. They're not good enough to have their backs against the wall. They played pretty good against Buffalo yesterday, but there's no way their back was against the wall. Figuratively, it was, but they're not good enough to bet. I had Buffalo laying, 4.5 in the game. I didn't fuck with the over-under because I didn't know if Rodgers was playing. Then he plays. They get one lucky play, and then I hate Josh Allen when he throws the interception in the end zone. You're going to go up 17 or 24, whatever, and then Green Bay scores, and it's a 10-point game. Thank you, Josh Allen. Or wink, wink, was that also part of the plan to not cover? Because there was no way Buffalo was covering 10.5 yesterday. It wasn't going to happen. It's all part of the plan. Bobby, that only works with real teams, not the Cleveland Browns. Exactly. I think that the Lions' backs are through the wall. They're all basically they're dead, right? They're the army that basically they came. The army tried to fight and said, "No, we can't win. We surrender." The Lions are the teams that surrender. I'm looking at the record for you to try to make the playoffs till Watson gets back. And what's Watson going to do? He hasn't played in 2 years? He ain't going to do anything. You're better off keeping Brissett. Watson's not going to do crap. He's not Joe Montana, and nobody can sit out a year and a half. He's going to light it up. No, you're better with Brissett. You've got to understand. Look at Russell Wilson. Look at these quarterbacks that get traded and suck on the new team for a while. You've got to get the timing down, a.k.a. Peyton Manning in the playoffs against the bus. This is why I bring it up. You fuck the timing up, they can't be good. And that's what's happened with Denver, and that's what's going to happen if Watson comes in. They're not going to do anything. They don't have a defense, first of all. Teams lose because they have weak defenses. They still have a weak defense. These are revivals. You mean rivals? For the Battle of Ohio. So these are rivals. Okay, so what does that mean? You don't have a rival unless both teams are good. Michigan State's not a rivalry. It is to Michigan State, not to Michigan, because they always beat them. Michigan's rival is Ohio State. Michigan's rival, they believe, is Michigan, but I don't. Michigan doesn't take them serious. North Carolina Duke's a rivalry. Kentucky Tennessee, maybe. Georgia Florida was a rivalry. Just because it's a rivalry, Georgia kicked their ass. Doesn't really mean anything. Tennessee won, so it's a rivalry. Who's got the better quarterback? Joe Burrow. Who's got the better defense? Cincinnati. So until something changes, it's still a Cincinnati play. The question is it an over or an under? And you're probably I'm still looking at over because Cleveland will score with Chubb, but their defense sucks. So Burrow, even without Chase, will light it up. And we see other games. Look at yesterday. Cordell Patterson doesn't play for Atlanta. They still win, but the guy on Deebo Samuel for Frisco is out, and they still pound the Rams. They beat the Rams. They're now 9. The last 9 in the regular season, the Niners have won. You don't fuck with it. If black's hitting the roulette wheel and it keeps hitting, you keep betting it. You do not bet red until red appears. You can only lose once if you try to figure it and say, well, black's hit 5 in a row, I'll bet red until red hits, you're going to lose a lot of money because black could go 20 times in a row. Instead, jump on black, keep winning with it. And then when red finally hits, you lose once and you win another 5, 10, 15. Watch Cleveland play their ass off. I like Cleveland. Okay, Derek, that's fine. I'm glad you like them, but you don't have a reason, right? So I don't want just picks. I want you to tell me why. You're telling me Michigan over Ohio State. I keep asking you is I don't see it because Michigan quarterback sucks. They got a good running attack. Their defense is okay, but Ohio State's a much better team with a much better offense and a equal defense, much better coach. Ohio State's the better team at home in a revenge game. So I've given you 7, 8 reasons why I like Ohio State. You're not giving me one reason why you like Michigan. You're not really giving me one reason why you like Cleveland, just you like them. I don't want you to confuse the class, right? So somebody's, I'm going to take Teaserking Steak in Cleveland or Professor. That's why I don't like you to listen to ESPN or I don't like you to listen to BetMGM or any of those because that's all they do is give opinions, but they don't back it up. So I get you like Cleveland, but you're not giving me a good reason, and therefore it's just an opinion, but I don't really want that. This is a class. You can ask me who I like. If you say, who do you like? That's what Bobby did. And I told him I still like Cincinnati. And I like Ohio State over Michigan. I'm giving you the explanation in that. But your opinion, unless you can back it up, is just, it's not adding value to the class. So let me talk. Let's see. So next week, what do we got? North Carolina, Virginia. North Carolina should bury them. Kentucky, Missouri. This should be an under game. Missouri's a very strong defense. Minnesota, Nebraska. This should be an under also. Nebraska, against a good defense. Ohio State will kill Northwestern. I just hope the line's under 40. Iowa, Purdue. There you go. Probably an under team. Let's see, Maryland, Wisconsin, Florida at A&M. Again, you got an over team. I think A&M's an under team. I don't know. Texas Tech, TCU. There's an over team with the normal spread. Tulane, Tulsa. Tulsa's the over team. Tulane's the A team. Tulane's a very good team. Again, the spread will determine everything. Georgia Tech, Virginia Tech. Virginia Tech can't take advantage of the weak Georgia Tech team. UCLA, Arizona State, I see that over. Depends on the line if I take UCLA. Arizona, Utah, that's an over, depending on if it's not in the 80s. Arizona showed you what they did against SC. Now, again, we need Rising to play, so let's make sure Rising's playing. Again, we got to, now we're fools if we don't, because we see what happened, right? He didn't play. They barely beat him. The backup's okay, but he's not, and now here we go against Arizona, which can score on him, which with Rising, I love it over. Without him, that's a whole different animal. So a lot will be determined by the point spread and the over-under. Watch the movement. Will tell you if Rising's playing, but he blindsided everybody. Even the line didn't move. Even the announcers before the game didn't know. So that was a real unusual. Okay, he's got a leg injury from the USC game, but you don't list it as questionable. That game was so fixed, it's unbelievable. They couldn't win by 7. They didn't. They won by 4, but they could not win by 7. Baylor, Oklahoma. That's an easy over. Syracuse, Pitt. I don't know. You got to check the Syracuse quarterback. Oregon, Colorado. Oregon buries them. Iowa State, West Virginia. That should be an under, depending on where they put it. Oak State, Kansas. That's over. Michigan State, Illinois, under. Penn State, Indiana. Maybe Penn State. I don't know. I don't love Penn State. They're not, the two big games they play, they got buried, and they beat Purdue and they beat Auburn. So I don't know. Stanford, Washington State, probably an under. Washington State's got an excellent defense. Tennessee, Georgia, we'll have to look at the points. And if you're saying it's 9-65, that's a tough one. I don't know. Georgia, what Georgia does, why they're so successful is they put pressure on the quarterback. It's what they do. And you got to be very careful. This isn't Alabama. Georgia's a whole different animal. Alabama's a lion, and Georgia's a crocodile. I mean, you cannot say, well, they did it to Alabama, they're going to do it here. No, that's not true. Now, Georgia has been playing weaker defensively than last year, but I don't think they're giving up 10 points a game still. And they'll be focused. One thing that hurts is when they get scared, right? They could lose to Tennessee. It's going to get their attention. They're going to be fired up and be careful. They're probably going to run the ball a lot to keep Tennessee off the field, and they're going to probably blitz the hell out of them. So we will see. They have a much better secondary than Alabama. I'll give you that. So I don't know yet. I don't know if I go over on a Georgia game in the 60s. That's sacrilegious. UCF, Memphis. UCF's an under team, Memphis and over. They run the ball a lot. Could go over, depends on the line. Navy, Cincinnati. I don't know. Navy's been scoring. They're a good over team. Cincinnati, we know, is a good under team. Got to see what the line is. I'm hoping in the 50s. Now we got 2 pages. And I'm not going over the small games now. I'm just looking at the better games. Texas, Kansas State should be a 100-point game. I mean, if Kansas State looks as good as they did against Oak State, they'll kill Texas. Again, if they're the dog, I love them, but I don't know what the line is yet. Alabama, LSU. Here you go, Bobby. Your LSU team at home on a Saturday night against Alabama. Alabama, I don't know. What do we say about them? They should have lost to Texas. They should have lost to A&M. They got beaten by Tennessee. And now they get an LSU team that I have no idea with the running quarterback, which does give Alabama problems. They cannot handle running quarterbacks, Johnny Manziel and Hooker. He doesn't throw the ball well enough. And how good is LSU's defense to stop Alabama? That'll be really the key. But I don't know LSU yet. They're an enigma. They're the Riddler. I don't know what we have yet. Houston, SMU, easy over. San Diego State, Vegas, should be an under. Florida State, Miami. Is Van Dyke playing? If Van Dyke's playing, it's a dog. The game's in Miami. If he doesn't play, it's an under game. Michigan, Rutgers. Michigan will kill him. South Carolina, Vanderbilt should be probably an under. James Madison's playing Louisville. How is Louisville going to be after this Wake Forest game? Are they going to be flat? Good question. I don't know. The game is at Louisville. James Madison's quarterback's been out, so is he going to play? We'll see. Clemson, Notre Dame, our night game. I got Clemson by 10. I think the game's under. I don't think Notre Dame's going to get eight block punts and all that. This game should be an under if it's a normal under. See, this is how you do it. I don't want to know the spread. I want to look at the game. Then I'm going to fill in the spread. So I got my spread. I got Clemson minus 10 in an under game. Let's see what the line. So I want to make all that thought process first. That's why I don't want to see your lines. I don't want them. They fuck me up, and I don't want to be fucked up. This is serious class. So it does no good to say, who do you like here? Who do you like there? It just doesn't belong here right now. I will go through the games after, but I know you want my opinion. I'm giving it to you. But this is the best way to do it. So Clemson 10, I don't know the over-under. This should be an under game unless Clemson switches to the other quarterback. But he keeps saying, I'm playing Ugalagli. I'll just call him Ugly. He keeps playing him. and he sucks. And Notre Dame at home will be sky high. Apparently, Pike's looking better. He's got like 15 touchdowns and 1 interception. He's much better, and therefore, this will be an interesting game. If he plays Ugalagli, I like Notre Dame in the game. If he plays the other guy, I like Clemson. So it depends on the quarterback, as every game does. Wake and NC State. How pissed is Wake going to be? 8 turnovers in a fucking game. Playing NC State, who's got a good defense and no quarterback. This will be an interesting game. Cal and USC. Now, USC barely beat Arizona. Their defense seems to be getting worse. Their offense, we know. Cal struggles on the road. Oregon lit them up. Washington they handled, and now here comes USC. So their third explosive team in a row. I think USC at home should do better. So those are a preview of next week. I will find the lines and I will analyze, and then the over-unders. Now, if I get some good over-unders today, I will then post them as a normal, let's get it in before the line moves. The regular line doesn't move much, but that over-under, it moves 5 points. And even Saturday, we saw, okay, let's look at last week, these crazy over-under movements. Okay, Miami of Ohio, Akron went from 40, looks like 48.5 to 50.5. So the line goes over, moves 2 points on Saturday, and it's an under game. What does that tell you? Who's betting the game over, and then the game's under, and the spread moves 2 points on the total. It doesn't move. It stayed at 8.5. What else do we see here? South Florida, Houston goes from 61 to 58.5. They score 70 points in the game. So again, they're betting the game under, and it goes over, and it moves 2.5 points. Toledo Eastern went down, and that one stayed at 51, so that worked. Arkansas Auburn went from 62 to 60. The game goes 68. So what the fuck's going on here? People are betting it the wrong way, and it's moving the line the wrong way. Are they doing this on purpose? So you'll go with the line and go, oh, it's going under. I'm going to bet it under, because you don't know what you're doing and you're just watching the line. I don't know, but I had the game over and it dropped 2 points, makes me want to bet it. We talked Miami of Ohio, Charlotte Rice. No, that didn't. Rutgers. Let's see what else. Oregon Cal line went from 58 to 56.5. They score 66. Again, they're wrong. Wake Forest Louisville goes from 63 to 65, and they score 69. That one actually did work, but only because you had 8 turnovers. If you don't have the 8 turnovers, you'll never get there, and you can't predict 8 turnovers. USC actually went from 76 to 75.5, and of course they scored an 82. Who could bet the game under? You got to be out of your mind. You either go over or you say it's too high and you watch. I watched, but you don't go under in a USC Arizona game or any, Arizona, whoever they got this week. Let's see. Boise, Colorado State goes at 43 to 41, and it's an over game. So almost all the line movements went the wrong way. Michigan went from 52 to 54.5. They scored in the 30s. Mississippi A&M went from 55 to 54. They scored 59. Baylor goes from 62 to 60. They score 62. Here's a big one. Arizona State goes from 56 to 48, and they score 76 in the game. So I'm still like, name one game where they actually did it right, but look at the point spreads. These are Saturday's point movements, moving 2-3 points, and they're wrong. You telling me the Sharps are betting $1 million on South Florida, Houston? You're telling me somebody's betting $3 million on the under in that game, and it goes to, and they score 69 and the over under 61. So you're telling me that that's how much money was bet on it to move the line? Because that's what's supposed to move the line is the bet. And yet they're wrong. I mean, come on, this is why I bet them early, but this is why you got to know your game. Take your game. It's an over game. Like Baylor, Oklahoma, it's an over game. I'm not fucking around with it. I'm getting that first line. I'm going to post it. I'm going to bet it. It's like right now, because I know it'll move 5 points or 6, or normally it does. And at that point, I know if I wait till Saturday to bet it, I'm laying an extra 3 or 4 points. You probably won't need it, but why waste it? So I need the lines on those. Bobby, some of these guys be thinking they're John Anthony, well, or Earl Anthony, or Mark Roth. Maybe they think they're Mark Roth. Yeah, I don't, Derek, you don't listen, right? Okay, I'm Derek, if you put one more line down, I'm going to have to block you. I don't want lines. I'm trying to talk English with you. Stop giving me the lines. I don't want them. I'll find them, and I need to be in my zone looking at the game and then going, there's the over-under. So please stop. This is the last one. You post another, I'm going to have to cut you down. I don't need it. I don't want it. And I'm not here to give opinion yet. I'm not ready for it. And I don't want your opinion because you don't give me a reason. So I'm not trying to be rude, Derek, but this is a class and you got to follow the rules of the professor. If I'm going to rob the Bank of Spain, I don't want to hear your opinion on it. I'm going to teach you what's going on. So I'm teaching you what to do. I don't want to hear your opinion unless you give me a reason. You don't give me a reason. I don't want to know. No, I didn't say overs. I said over, but I'll look at the line. I said I don't want any lines. Kansas State, Texas, 54.5. Fine. I don't care. I'll read it and I'll go from there. I don't want the lines now. I will get into my zone and look at it. So what I'm saying, Baylor, Oklahoma, I don't want you to show me the Baylor, Oklahoma line. I'm just saying that's an over game. So is the Oak State, Kansas. That's an over game. So I'll find the line. Thank you very much. It's hard teaching a class on football. Anyway, so that's what we have next week. Last week I found a little more difficult. I didn't have my Kansas. I didn't have a lot of the teams that, I had, UCLA, Stanford. I had Utah, Washington State. I didn't have like this week, I've got Oak State, Kansas. I didn't have Kansas last week. That's an over. Boom. I got it. I've got the good matchups. Last week I didn't have it. And it was the first week I really didn't have that USC, UCLA, Utah matchup, Oregon, Washington, Arizona, or the Big 12. So it was kind of went with a few different flavors that I didn't really want to go with, but I did, and I picked too many games. Normally I don't pick that many because I know some of them are going to lose, and I'm trying to get rid of the losers. That's the point. I like the games, but I know I'm not going to go 18-0. I can do like 10. I keep doing 9-1 on my 10-team teasers with the guys. So that's about right. That's what I expect, and that's what I'm going with, about 10 games. I can find a lot because of the matchups. If the game fits, if the shoe fits, wear it. So it's easy for me to find 10, 15 games. That's why I laugh when – I don't like teasers. Why? You can't find 2 games to get the advantage of the 6 points? So anyway, that's what it is. So tonight, I guess Cincinnati over. I hit Buffalo last night, thank God. Had the Niners under. That was good. The Giants. Okay, I don't understand this. The Giants fumble a punt. Seattle gets it, scores a touchdown, in a few plays. Seattle's punting again late in the fourth quarter. They got the same idiot back there. What happens? He fumbles the punt again. What the fuck do you keep the guy who fumbled the punt and put him out there again in the same game so he could fumble again? And now what do? Cut him, or are you going to put him out there next week so he can make 2 more fumbles? Are you an idiot? If your guy fumbles the ball, he's out of the game. You don't put him back for another punt. You put a new punt returner. And I go back to the Niners Seattle play. The year the Niners, who did they play? The Giants and the Niners. When the Giants beat Tom Brady, should have been the Niners. They hold them. They had that great defense. And what do? They go back, they punt, and the 49er guy fumbles. Okay, early in the game, cost them a field goal. Now we're at the end of the game. It's like a tie game or 3-point game. What do? They put the same idiot back there, and the same thing happens. He fumbles the punt. The Giants go to the Super Bowl and win instead of the Niners. Harbaugh still hasn't learned that lesson, but I don't understand. If my guy can't catch a punt, what's he doing back there in the first place? And if he does catch the punts and then it was a fluke fumble, he ain't going back out there this game. He's going to go practice after the game, catching 100 punts, and we're going to tackle him until he stops fumbling. He's not getting back out on the field. So I couldn't believe I lost the Giant game because this idiot fumbles 2 punts. I mean, I don't know what it was like this weekend, right? I get Syracuse getting 2 punt blocks. I get the Giant guy fumbling 2 punts. God knows what happened in the Wake Forest with all the turnovers. You got to be kidding me. I mean, that's how I'm losing with block punts. I got to watch the Dallas-Chicago game to try to figure out how they scored 80 points in the game. These teams don't give up 20 points, and then you played a 49-29 game. Seriously. So now Dallas, I got to take off the under because they don't have Cooper Rush anymore. And I'm sure now this is the problem. Now you got Mr. Turnover, Dak Prescott in the game. And so he scores and that, but there had to be turnovers for you to get 49 points in an NFL game because you're not keep driving. Once you get to 25, you're running the clock out. How does the Bears score 29? Or really, without a quarterback, they're getting 29. I love looking at Flowers. 4 or 5 for 10 yards, and he ran for 80 yards and a touchdown. What the fuck kind of football is that? So I got to watch that replay and see what happened. How does Oakland get shut out 24-0 to New Orleans, who is an over defense? Another big mystery. What did Carr get hurt? Maybe he got hurt. I don't know. I got to look. Devontae Adams, did everybody get hurt? They were all questionable, and they were all suited up to play, which leads you to believe if they're that questionable that late, they're probably not healthy. It's the only thing that can explain them. So they lose in an over game. It's 24-0 New Orleans. In an under game, Dallas wins 49-29 to the fucking Bears. Are you kidding me? So again, I can't lay 10 with Prescott, and I could have taken New Orleans in 7.5. I thought about that, but that's what you got to look at. Philly came through. I told you Detroit would be over. Carolina came through. Arizona, that was a lock, came through. The Denver game stayed under. Tennessee, I loved under once the quarterback was out. So whenever you get a quarterback out, like Miami, Van Dyke, or in Tennessee, Tannehill, it's an under because the new quarterback he's probably not very good. The coach is going to sit there and he's going to run the ball. So that's what you basically have is him. They're going to run it ball. I think Henry got the ball 30, 40 times. And of course, it's a low scoring game. And that's what happened. His name is Derek Anthony, and he has a crystal ball. I'm just giving an opinion, I educated guess. I don't know my opinion. I don't want your opinion, Derek. That's what I've been telling you for a long time, unless you have a reason for it. Don't tell me Michigan's going to beat Ohio State unless you can explain why. And even then, I don't really care right now. The game's a month away. You gave your opinion on Georgia, Tennessee, which, again, there's no real rhyme or reason. And I really don't want your opinion. I don't care about it. That's not the purpose of the class. It's to ask me my opinion, and I'm giving you reasons. If I didn't give you a reason, then don't ask my opinion. But you can ask my opinion, but I don't want yours. This is not about opinions, right? This is about, I like tonight's game. I like Cincinnati, Cleveland because, and you give an answer and you give, this is why I want to bet it. You want to bet gold? I give you a reason to bet gold, right, Bobby? I explain it, why you want to be in gold, because the U.S. dollar is crumbling. Da, 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 da. I give you the reason, and then that's never my opinion. None of these picks are my opinion. These picks are based on sound analysis. I'm an analyst. That's what I am, and I'm not giving you an opinion. I'm giving you what should happen in the game. What we're doing today is looking at the game going, yeah, Baylor was a good dog and they won. And that's not an opinion. That's a fact. The Arizona State-Colorado game, now we got to look into that. That wasn't the expected outcome that I would have expected. Arizona State, I thought would win. They did win. They were laying 6.5 and they won by 8, but the over-under was 48. So we got to look into what happened there. But it's never my opinion. Any of these games are not my opinion. They're based on facts. They're based on their over teams or under teams. If I'm giving you Kansas and Oak State, it's not my opinion the game's going over. It's based on them. They both score a lot. They both have weak defenses. That's the reason the game's going over, not my opinion. None of this is my opinion. That's the whole point I'm trying to explain to you. I'm teaching you how to fish instead of giving you a fish. So the old economic saying is, I can give you a fish you'll eat for a day, or I can teach you how to fish, and you can fish for a lifetime. I'm teaching you how to pick. I'm giving you the ingredients needed to figure out the puzzle. Every game, Baylor, Oklahoma is a puzzle. What do you do with it? Georgia State, Southern Miss is a puzzle. What do you do? How do you figure out, do I bet the over, under, or the dog or the favorite? And that's what I do, is we figure out the puzzle. Sometimes I can't figure the puzzle. I say pass. Sometimes I figure the puzzle and it doesn't figure. And a lot of the times I figure the puzzle and we're right. None of it's an opinion. None of it. The lock is strictly based on TCU being the dog, or Baylor was the dog. That was the lock. Georgia under was the lock, not an opinion. And that's, see, most people think that these pickers, because there's so many idiots out there that they're just flipping a coin and picking. And that's the point of the class. I'm teaching you how to fish. So you know how to pick these games. And I'm walking through it with you. I don't know what else to do. But your opinion is not needed here unless you unless you solve the cube. So if you can solve the Washington State-Stanford game and come up with not an opinion, but this is why it's going to win, then I'll listen to you. I don't want to hear your Ohio State, Michigan opinion, what you think might happen when I don't, you're not giving me backbone on it. You're just throwing out a guess. All that does is confuse the class, and you're not adding value. So I want you to add value to the class, Derek. I don't mind you making value-added comments like, geez, I thought this happened or that, but you bring in Lamar Jackson's a good quarterback, and I got to fight you over that, and then you bring over these opinions, which I don't want to hear because you don't have any you're not solving the riddle, right? If you have pocket aces and you lost 3 times in a row. Why? Why did you lose 3 times in a row? Did you not bet the flop? Did you not bet enough pre-flop? Did somebody pull a set on you? Why did you lose 3 times in a row with trip ace? But you don't give that answer, so you don't add value to it. That's what I'm trying to get you to think, Derek, is you got to understand what's going on. And that's why I tend to get upset at people who just throw games out, like that other idiot who said, oh, BD Wong liked those games. Yeah, New England -1. How did that do? That's why I don't want to hear it, because I don't want opinions in here. And I don't want people to make a bet on somebody else's opinion without understanding why. So that's my point. I am not giving an opinion. I am giving you a reason. Like I tell Bobby to buy gold and silver, it's because the dollar's collapsing. And I explain why the dollar's collapsing. So it's not my opinion gold's going up. It's a fact. And I give you the facts so you solve the puzzle. And that's my point. And that's why the gold was $151,000 an ounce in Pakistan. There you go. Was that my opinion? No, that's a fact. That's what this is. This is a class. So you can learn how to pick football games and do other things, how to think and how to analyze. That's the point of this. So I'm the professor because I'm teaching you. And that's because I understand it. And I've been years it took me to understand it. I thought I knew, well, I'll just bet Joe Montana. So I knew enough that you bet on the stars, but it's clearly the defense. If you have a very strong defense, you don't want to fuck with them. Now, sometimes you think you have a strong defense, and then they turn out to not be a strong defense, aka UCLA or USC. Then you have to reanalyze. Well, wait a minute. Well, I thought the defense was better. So that tends to happen. Why the analysis failed is because you anticipated an over. Oh, the quarterback didn't play. So in Utah, that's a perfect example. I'm figuring Rising. I look at the injuries, not on the injury list. So that's one of the factors I'm looking at is who's on the injured list. He's not on there. So I'm assuming Rising's going to win the game. He's going to beat Washington State. The spread's 7 down to 1. That's a for sure. Now he doesn't play. Well, that's not factored into the building of the answer, right? That's not a fact that's given to me until game time. Well, then I'm fucked because I can't factor him not playing. I got to factor he is playing, or Van Dyke not playing made that game go under, and it was 6-6 at the end of the fourth quarter. So I've got all the figured out. It's the injuries that cause it to be not figured out, or the guy getting hurt, or Wake Forest getting 8 turnovers in a game. That you can't put into the blocks to get the conclusion. So that's what I'm trying to do by all the analyzing, is to get to the conclusion, figure out the game. It is in no way an opinion. Nothing I give you is an opinion. It is all fact based on several variables. You cannot use math for the variables. And, when I say backs against the wall, it's with good teams. And we locked Tampa over Atlanta, and they won 20-15 or 21-15, and we won on it. But then I see Tampa sucks, and now I'm like, well, forget the backs against the wall. Even if it is, they can't win. So I throw that analysis doesn't work. It might work with a Buffalo. It might work with the Kansas City. It might work with the Philadelphia if they're really that strong. The Rams, you could say back against the wall, but they can't win. They're not a good team. Stafford sucks, which I told you. And so you can't back against the wall the Rams. It's a method, but it doesn't work with shitty like the Lions. They back against the wall every week, but they keep losing. Or the Bears or Green Bay. If it's a bad team, it doesn't work. So you got to figure out what works. How do you analyze the game? This is in no way an opinion. Nothing I give you is an opinion. If I'm giving you Baylor, Oklahoma over, it's not an opinion. Okay? Now, based on what the over-under is, will determine if we play it. As I said, USC was 76, made it too high. We can't play it in our model. We don't like to go much over 70, maybe a 71, 65. I want to be in the 60s because it's too easy for a Michigan or a Tennessee where it's not competitive, and then they run out the fourth quarter and you're fucked on your overs. So you need it to be a competitive game, which you get from Oregon, Washington, USC, UCLA, USC, Utah. You're getting the competitive game. They can score, and that's why you get the 80s. It works. So if you think I'm giving you an opinion, then you're clueless. It's not. None of this is my opinion. So I've gotten to that point for 30 years figuring it out. Well, 77 is more like, what are we at? 87, 97, 07, 17, 45 years. So at this point, nothing's an opinion. Maybe in the 70s it was. I thought the Steelers would win. I thought Montana would win, maybe blindly, or as I said, that green jersey game, Montana was the quarterback. Did it surprise you that Montana won at home in the green uniform? Not at all. But if you didn't know who Montana was and you didn't know, then yeah. But that's the opinion. I'll take USC. Oh, they came out with green uniforms. Okay, back then you didn't know, but you would have known who Montana was. Anyway, this is a class to teach you to fish. And in this case, the fish is football or gold or economics. I'm giving you my master's class. This is not an opinion when I say gold's going to go up. That's not an opinion. Silver's going to go up. Not an opinion. We're going to have a depression. Not an opinion. Everything in the stock market's going to crash. Not an opinion. Bond market will crash. Housing market is crashing. Not an opinion. I've been talking about that for a year. Go back a year. I've had some friends get out of the stock market last year. I've been out of the market for at least a year, probably more. As soon as I see the inflation, I run because costs go up and they can't make earnings and their stocks go down and people are going to need the money and sell their stocks. That is not an opinion. I'm not guessing the market's going down. It's a fact. I'm not guessing gold and silver are going to go up. I've explained the manipulation, why it's low. When people come in and say, oh, look at COMEX at 16, I go, it's paper, not physical. Physical, I showed Bobby and you on Saturday, is $150,000 an ounce in Pakistan. Now, can me and Bobby get on a plane, go to Pakistan with an ounce of gold, and somebody give us $150,000? I don't know. And if they do, then we'd have to convert it back to US dollars. I don't know if we can do that. If we can, let's get on a plane, Bobby, and we'll go sell. The silver didn't go up, but gold did. So I'll give you one of my ounces and we can go from there. But that's real. That's not an opinion. So I am not here to give opinions. I'm here to analyze and research and give facts out. That's the point of me. How do you think I'm so successful? I'm getting lucky guessing. Oh, I just happened to guess that Baylor as a dog against Texas Tech wins. Oh, that was a guess. Are you kidding me? That was not a guess. That was a fact based on them being the dog and they're the better team, and the Georgia unders based on their defense. Everything is there's a conclusion to everything, and that's what you're not understanding because you listen to these other guys on the radio, on ESPN, who are giving you guesses. They're not. When they get into the detail I give you, then it's not their opinion anymore. Right now, it's their opinion. I even had some guy I had to boot out of here saying, well, that's just an opinion. It's just an opinion. Oh, a lock is just an opinion. Yeah, no, they're not opinions. Nothing I give you is an opinion. If it's my opinion, I won't give it to you. It's got to be a fact. All the games I pick are based on something, not an opinion. Now, can I go 100% on the fact? No. Just like you can't win every time you get pocket aces, but you got pocket aces. So you think you're going to win with it. It's better than whatever the other guy has before the flop. But you got to be smart enough to understand everything changes on the flop. Your aces suck at that point. If you don't hammer the flop, you're going to lose with pocket aces probably 99 times out of 100. If nothing shows up, because you're going to bet and the guy's going to fold. If he re-raises you, as I've taught you, and he check raises you, you fold because he's hit a set. Because he's only going to call your big bet with a pair. If he doesn't catch the set, but if he does catch the set, he's going to tell you, I check raise you, and you know he beat you and you fold. So that's how you avoid getting hurt with pocket aces on the flop. But everything changes on the flop. What if it's 3 clubs? His flush beats your aces. If it's 7, 8, 9, his straight beats your aces. You're fucked. Your aces are useless after the flop. So that's not an opinion. That's a fact. If he check raises you, is not an opinion. He's got a set. It's a fact. He's got a set. And it's a fact probably 99 times out of 100. He's got a set because he knows he can re-raise you because he knows you got a big hand because you're betting it. And those people that slow play aces have no idea how to play poker. And that includes these pros too. You cannot slow play a pair. You can slow play a full house. You can slow play 4 of a kind. You do not slow play a pair. You slow play a pair, the guy bets, you don't even know what to do. So that's bullshit. This little TV poker doesn't, it's all fixed anyway. Anyway, where are we at? 2 hours, 2:15. Any value-added questions or comments, I'll be happy to take. Look for gold and silver to go through the roof very, very soon. The BRICS countries are very close. The Saudi Arabia is very close to getting off the U.S. dollar. They're pissed at the U.S. You've got to understand it's part of the U.S.'s plan to blow it up. They're blowing up the world. It's part of the plan. When they raise interest rates, they make the U.S. dollar more expensive. Everybody's related to the U.S. dollar. It's set up like that. So when they raise rates, it's not to kill inflation. That's the fake part of it. What it does is it kills the euro and the British pound and the Swiss franc and the yen and the ruby. They're all fucked. That's why they're all buying gold, because they want to get away from the dollar. And that's why there's huge gold inputs. But when you hear some guy tell you about, silver might hit $100 an ounce, and they pull out a chart, turn them off. They're talking paper, not physical. And when they talk paper, they don't have a fucking clue. And that's the problem. I heard one guy, and he's talking about the premiums. So the premium is what they charge over spot. Well, my argument with that always is, but your spot's wrong. Your spot is the paper spot. So if if the spot for silver is 20 and you're charging me 35 because you're giving me this $15 premium, your whole premise is fucked up, because the $20 isn't the real price. It's more like 1,000. So what are you doing with the premium? What is that? You're a fucking idiot. There's no premium. Charge me $1,000 because that's what you should be charging me. But they can't comprehend physical, so they go to the thing. And I hear it's just all fixed where they pay, JP Morgan pays the miners $20 for the silver, and they take it. Well, they're a bunch of idiots. If I owned a mine and JP Morgan offered me $20 for my silver, I told them to go fuck themselves. I want $1,000 an ounce. That's it. And the problem is it's all pegged to them. They need the cash flow to pay the bills. They're out of their fucking minds. Then I got to go to my Canadian club. Well, I'll give you $2 a bottle for it. It costs me $30 and I can get $50. What the fuck do you mean $2? Why would I take $2 for my bottle of Canadian Club when it's clearly more expensive than that? That's the problem. So these guys are with the expense and everything, and they're not doing it right. Hey, Grega John. So that's the thing. They don't understand it. These miners, they just get the money. It's probably all fixed anyway. Talk about something fixed. The gold and silver is fixed, but what you've done is you've let the Russians and the Chinese into the game, and the Indians, and they're all buying it at these low prices. And the U.S. is going to get fucked. And if you don't know Chinese and Russian now, you're in big trouble, because the U.S. will no longer be relevant. I mean, we're relevant now, but we just lost Rising, right? He got injured, but we're still thinking we're the U.S. Nobody, you set sanctions on Russia, and all the other countries are running away, going, you're going to set sanctions on us. You raise the interest rates. It killed our debt. We can't afford it. So what's going to happen is they're getting out of the dollars. And all the BRICS countries are going to this new currency backed by gold. Problem is, they're trusting the Russians and the Chinese, which they shouldn't be doing. Instead of being independent, which is what they should be doing, they're all, we're going to join this. And then Russia's going to say, we're going to fuck you over just like we just fucked everybody else. And we're not going to allow your current. And then all these other countries are going to get fucked because they're in bed with Russia and China. The only people you can trust is yourself. So that's why I don't want to hear other bettors with their, I like this, or BetMGM or ESPN. I don't want to hear. The only guy I ever really liked was Jimmy the Greek. Him I liked. Him I would go, yeah, that makes sense. And I would follow him. And if he gave a pick, I would listen to it as I was learning what to do. And that was back in the early 70s. How you do on your picks? Well, Well, I mean, it's teasers. So in college, I've probably been real close to 90% this year. Pros have been giving me a real battle. Um, Pros, they're so inconsistent. There's not enough data. There's all these injuries. Everybody in the team has a hamstring. So that's given me a problem. But college, I've been really kicking ass. So pros are very hard. But well, the last 2 weeks, I did okay in pros. Again, like a Dallas Bear game under, well, they got 80 points. If you know anybody that could figure that out, I'd like to meet them because you can't figure that shit out. But most of the games went the way they should. The under in the Niner game, I got the over tonight. I had Buffalo. So a lot of winners. So I do pretty well. Ask the gang. I mean, go to www.teaserking.com and you can look at my history. I give you the winners, I give you the losers, and I keep track. So you can go there and see every bet I've made. And it's, like I said, winners and losers. So I'm not posting the winners and I didn't lose a bet. So you'll see everything. And just listen to the videos, right? Go back a month and listen to my video. I give you every game and I give you free picks. So you knew the free pick yesterday or Saturday was Tennessee over and Iowa State under. Iowa State under won. Tennessee over lost, but I'm giving you the picks. Raiders couldn't. Well, yeah, go figure that out, right? That's something that I assume that the Carr got injured in the game, and that's why they couldn't score because he was questionable anyway, as well as Adams. So I'm going to look at the box score, or I'm going to watch the highlights, and I bet he didn't finish the game, and I bet that's why. They didn't score. They didn't have Carr. The coach sucks. So again, these New England assistants, like how many times do you got to hire a New England assistant and he doesn't work out? What, it's been about 20, 30 times. Charlie Weiss, he was great. He went to Notre Dame and he fucked that up. Then he goes to Kansas. Look at the coach of Kansas now. He's turned them around. They score. They've won. They beat Iowa State. This guy did it, but Charlie Weiss, the New England guy, didn't do it because it was all Tom Brady. It wasn't him. But that's what you have. So how many times do you got to have the bad coach to see from New England to see maybe I shouldn't get anybody from New England? I don't know where you get the coaches from now, but they're all like getting Shanahan. Like I looked at that Miami coach. I never heard of the guy. He's never been a coach before. And I looked at him and he was like a Shanahan, not even the offensive coordinator. He was just the assistant to Shanahan. So basically you're taking Shanahan's offense and that's what he's running with. So he's smart enough that they got Tyreek Hill and Waddle, and Tagliavua is playing a lot better with that. Same thing with Hurts. He's got the wide receivers and the running attack. He wants to scramble too much, which is going to hurt him. But basically, he's got that. So that's what you're looking for. You always want an offense with balance, and you always want a good defense. That's who you want to bet on. You cannot bet weak defensive teams because they're not going to hold up, and you don't know what you're getting. So be careful with weak defensive teams. That's why you rank the teams offense and defense. So Illinois, you can bet all day long. You're not scoring on them. You're not scoring on Iowa State, but don't make the mistake of betting them over. So with the Georgia game, I got to be careful before I bet Georgia, Tennessee over. I don't want to fuck with Georgia's defense. You know, they're liable to put pressure on them. They know they got to put pressure on them. I just don't see this game being a 70-point game. This isn't Alabama. There's a huge difference. Alabama has no secondary, and Georgia puts pressure on the quarterback and has a secondary. And if Tennessee doesn't run the ball, they're not going to score in this game. So that's what it is. But that's the whole point, Greg and John. I mean, the Raiders couldn't score. Well, how do you predict that? You can't. There's just some things that don't go according to Hoyle. But I did take Tennessee under when Tannehill was out, and I did take Miami of Florida under when Van Dyke was out. So if you know that's happening, then you can bet accordingly. I guess is that Oakland, that Carr got hurt in the game, and that's why they didn't score. But I don't know yet. I haven't watched it, and I didn't look at the box score yet. I'm looking at the new college. So It takes me a while to do it. I got to update all the stats, and I got to go over or unders, look at the quarterbacks, and then I draw my own lines out. So that's what I have to do. So I was doing that late last night. Now I'll fill in the real lines in college. Now that Baylor, Oklahoma over. Well, if it's 75, it ain't. If it's in the 60s, then I'll go post it. So that's what I do, Greg and John. I post it when I see something because the over-unders tend to move way too quickly. So that's what it is. Tomorrow I'll review the pros. And again, these teams that go for it on fourth down just fucking are the stupidest coaches. And it's funny is I'm noticing when they do it, there's two ways to kill the game. One, the Giants, when the guy fumbles 2 punts and you wonder why you lose. Why did the guy go out the second time? And these go for fourth downs and they don't get it. And I bet you 99% of the time, Michigan State, you go for fourth down inside the 10 and you don't get it, you lose the game. And it's such a momentum shift that this is what the coaches don't understand. Oh, I'm being aggressive. No, you're not. You're fucking up your team because Michigan then gets aggressive because they just held you. Your team's flat. And guess what? You didn't tie the game. If you kick the field goal and it's 10-10, it's a whole different game. Your team's like, wow, we're tied with them. We could beat them. Because Michigan State was well below Michigan. I mean, they weren't in the same league with them. So if it's 10-10, they go, oh, it's still 10-7, and now here comes Michigan with all the momentum, and that's the part that they're missing. Greg and John, you think some NFL games are fixed? Greg and John, I would say 99% of everything, stocks, bonds, gold and silver, football is fixed. Absolutely. Especially now that you've entered the DraftKings and BetMGM with pro football. What do you think's going to happen? Believe me, they're getting a call. Buffalo yesterday. Okay, throw the interception. We don't want to go up 24. We want you to win by 10. The spread's 10.5. So let Green Bay score, and then you win 27-17. Believe me, that phone call was made, and Josh Allen threw that interception. Believe me, that happened in a lot of games. The Dallas game, I have no idea. Obviously, who knows? That went way over. That one went really fucked. But these games, especially that Pitt-Cleveland game, when Pitt starts doing the laterals late in the game with linemen, it's never going to work. And then it goes into the end zone, and then nobody from Pitt's there, and Cleveland lands on it, and all of a sudden there goes your under. That was totally fixed. Are all of them fixed? I'd say a majority are, but it doesn't matter. Look at the money, right? The money's being inflated. That's fixing the money. So don't worry about football. The stock market's fixed. So, okay, where are you going to put it? At least enjoy it. But with teasers, we kind of take the fix away because Buffalo couldn't win by 10.5, so they could only win by 10, which they did, but we teased it to 4.5. We won. So the teaser eliminates the fixing in most cases because they're not fixing the teaser, they're fixing the line. So if it's 7.5, they'll win by 7. But we put it down to 1.5. So that's how we get away from it, Greg and John, is the teasers. They help with the fix. So that's the point. But don't be naive, Greg and John. Stock market's fixed. The Fed prints the money. Believe me, Pelosi makes $1 million on stocks. Hillary Clinton made all that money in the derivative market way back 10 years ago because the guy fixed it for her. So don't be naive. Everything, the stock market is totally fixed. So is the bonds. So is the currency. So you're probably better off at least enjoying the football. All sports are fixed. Basketball is fixed. Baseball is probably fixed. But it's the referees that fix it, right? The holding penalty, the pass interference, that's the fix, not the player themselves. So the ref drops the pass interference. And how many times have you said, where's the interference? Where's the holding penalty? There isn't one. And then the New Orleans, Minnesota game where the guy knocked down the receiver and there was no penalty. You don't think that was fixed? How could he miss that? So anyway, that's what happens. So it's the world we live in is not good. That's why they don't want the gold standard, because they can't print gold and they want to print dollars and control it. And they're making people poor because they're taxing us and they're taking the value of our dollar away. That's why we buy gold and silver. That's how we prevent the fix from happening. That is the lesson learned, is that. And that's not an opinion, that's taught. I'm teaching you that. So be careful with that. Go buy as much silver and gold because it's about to go through the roof. And you're not going to be able to wait because it's not. I went to my guy Saturday. There was no gold left. He didn't have an ounce of gold. Didn't have a half ounce. Didn't have a quarter ounce. The only reason he gets it is somebody comes in and sells it. And I did see some lady coming in and selling probably 20 ounces of gold. She obviously needed the money or whatever she's going to do with it. But what do you do with it if you sell it now? Then you got to buy US dollars. Who wants that? So you're fucked either way. But if you get into gold and silver, it's your only salvation. So that's how you fish. So I'm teaching you how to fish, which means how to pick games, how to understand gold and silver, how to understand the economy. Every class I do has a meaning behind it. It's a method. It's to educate you, because God knows nobody's educated in economics and nobody's educated how to pick football. You might have your Chris Collinsworth and I like this and Tony Dungy, but they don't have a fucking clue. They don't. Have you ever heard somebody say, well, they have a really good defense, so I'm going to play it under, or I'm not going to bet against? No, people don't understand that logic. And that's the whole key to it. You never want to fuck with a good defensive team. That's why we play Iowa State under, because you don't want to fuck with them because you can't score on them. So that's, but I understand that. That's what I'm teaching you. So now you can look at the unders and you go, oh, well, you might have to research. Did they play a bunch of shit teams? Or did they do this on Utah and UCLA? The team does that on Utah and UCLA. They got a strong defense. Washington State did it on USC, but you can't count the Utah game because Rising didn't play. Otherwise, then you could really say, I'm betting Washington State under. Against Oregon, it was a high-scoring game. Anyway, that's the point of the class. It is a class, not an opinion. I don't want your opinions. I only want your facts or your thought process, or you're having trouble with my thought process. Please ask those questions. This is live, so you ask questions, but please, I don't really want comments. I want fact. I want, this is what I like, why. So please understand that, because I want you to come and add value. Okay. So that's what it is. So anyway, I guess that's it. I will talk to you tomorrow. We'll do the pros. Again, I took over Cincinnati, Cleveland over, and the over at this point is 45.5. So I'm over 39.5. That would be my play today. And then I got to look at the college. I'll probably post some early college totals if they're not crazy. Vegas is really slow at catching up to this. So we nailed them on Miami of Florida 10 times last year once Van Dyke was the quarterback. And the Georgia unders were always in the 50s. So if Georgia's really 65, that you got to be kidding me. All right. Well, have a wonderful day. And again, www.teaserking.com. You can get my email. Email me. Questions and comments are greatly appreciated. And again, I will respond to that. So have a great day. www.teaserking.com. Thank you very much. Enjoy.